Carl Lentz was once one of the most popular preachers in America. This evening, he's just like a lot of us. As the old saints would say, a sinner standing in the need of praise.
That was a significant chunk of trust that fell with me.
There was a lot of people that were personally impacted. A lot of my community was that. How do we process this thing?
If I were to compile all the stuff that's been said about me that isn't true or that I care about, it is what it is.
Let me just set the record straight. One of the videos I said a couple things about you that were inaccurate.
And they were like, but he used to say that he, prepared his sermons while playing basketball. We can tell. And I was like, you can tell.
How have you processed everything that happened to Hillsong after the fact?
It's turbulent times for the celebrity church Hillsong. High-profile leader Brian Houston, who founded the hugely successful organization, has now stepped down from its multiple boards.
My church is better than your church. Would you shut up? How many funerals have you been to? I do feel like sometimes when people criticize small level things, they have never been around big level problems. You lose a couple people to some overdoses and you lose a couple people in the middle of the night. Why do you have so much time to parse through church preference? Let's try to show some people a different version of the Jesus that they apparently do not know.
Ruslan.
Okay, before we get into this video, guys, if you know me, you know that I am a huge fan of the hit show House of David, produced by my friend John Irwin and the amazing people over at Wonder Project. And so I already had the Wonder Project subscription within Amazon Prime, watching House of David with my son, but I was even more ecstatic when they reached out to make sure that we get the word out about their brand new service within Amazon Prime. Now, it's not just for the House of David. When I signed up, I discovered that there's over 100 additional titles on here, edited versions of family favorites like The Patriot and Dead Poets Society and Antoine Fisher. Sandlot is on here. There are so many amazing titles on here. And the dope part is it's not just faith-based. There's a lot of Christian stuff on here, a lot of biblical stuff on here, but it's also value-based. And there's also like a new documentary on there with King and Country. And again, the best part about it is that you can watch it with your family without worrying about anything inappropriate popping up on the screen. It's only $8.99 a month, or you can save 17% by signing up for the entire year for only $89.99. And an annual subscription is a beautiful way to support the mission of the Wonder Project and also signal to the industry that this sort of entertainment that's faith-based and value-based is needed and demanded by our community. And it also helps the wonderful people at the Wonder Project continue creating and making amazing media. So hit the pinned comment and sign up for a free trial today, or better yet, save some money and sign up for an annual membership. Link is in the pinned comment and description. Let's jump into this conversation. All right, ladies and gentlemen, today's guest really needs no introduction. Someone that has been around the Christian space, someone that's had an impact and influence on me over the years, someone that has his own podcast and has evolved, the one, the only, ladies and gentlemen, Carl Lentz.
My brother. Pleasure to be here. Are you doing sound effects?
I'm doing sound effects. You can't hear them though. That's all right. Man, thanks so much for being here. So,
it's an honor. Thanks for having me.
I've had the pleasure of just kicking it with you today.
Yeah,
and
fun.
It's been so cool to get to know you in a relational context, even though we've been keeping up with what you've been doing for years. I told you about a decade ago. I went to Hillsong NYC. Yeah. It was a Sunday that Rich was preaching there. You weren't there. And got to see some of what was happening. So quite a few people that came out of the church that said very positive things about the church. And then there's obviously the impact of what happened almost 5 years ago to the date. Yeah. Watching you walk out of that and walk through that and walk towards healing and all the stuff you're doing now. And so I've been saying this for a couple of years now. It's like, man, I really want to make an effort to talk to people and not about people. And so you're one of the people that like I was excited to talk to. Yeah. Because when all of that happened, there was a lot of people that were personally impacted, even though they didn't know you personally. And a lot of my community was that, like, how do we process this thing? And that was the beginning of some of the initial videos that I made reacting to, just trying to help people process. But then also a part of feeling like, man, here are these guys that are impacting culture the way I feel like Christians should. and kind of the leader of this crew has this moral failing, you know, and being impacted by it. And so anyway, thank you for being here.
Yeah, man.
Appreciate you being here.
I respect you. I told you a little bit of my road of exposure to you and what you do. Very little. And I love it when people do have the courage to just reach out to people. And I know you did that. Yeah, I was looking through my DMs, and even back in the day before I even was you know, knowing we were going to have a relationship, I saw a message from you, and I always respect that. I think people have the right to say whatever they want. I do like your virtue of courage, though, which is, let me just check, you know, whether a person responds back. But I think that's cool about you, that even for the people who love you, to know even further, you know, you're a man of your word. It's one thing. There's a lot of people who don't do that. They don't have the courage to do that.
Yeah.
So I respect that about you.
Well, let me just set the record straight. One of the videos I said a couple things about you that were inaccurate. Specifically, you coming up with sermons on the basketball court.
Yeah.
I don't know where I read that, and I just asked you just now, and you were like, "Man, that's one of the things you said that I didn't like."
I got this video sent, and you were
what
like,
was the video? You got to remember.
I do not remember
you don't know? Okay,
at all,
that's
because I you know, once you break from social media, you know, it feels good, and then when you dip back into it, especially if it's critical about you, you're like, this is why I left. But it was just like, yeah, I think you started by saying something relatively kind, and then you're like, but he used to say that he, you know, prepared his sermons while playing basketball. And we can tell. And I was like, you can tell. Like, if you don't like what I preach, and say, but I do.
Yeah.
And I didn't prepare it on a basketball court. I spent, you know, a good portion of my adult life in shadows preparing sermons.
Yeah.
So that's something I hold dear, and I don't take it too seriously, but that was something I remember. And then the guy next to you was like, yeah, he also said that God spoke to him that he has to be cool to reach cool people. And I was like, man, that's the dumbest thing I've ever heard.
Yeah.
Not only have I never said that, but anybody who does say that, that's weird. So, but man, if I were to compile all the stuff that's been said about me that isn't true or that I care about, it is what it is. So I got no beef, brother.
Okay.
None.
Okay. Well, I appreciate that. So, man, where do we begin this conversation?
Man, wherever you want. Did you ever expect to be in a place? I will preface this by saying I had a conversation with Laura, and I said, I think that the interesting shift I see in culture, it could be that God is expanding the profile microphone, meaning for so long it was church. It was pastors. I've got young people in my house, and to see the rise of TikTok influencers and maybe even YouTubers like yourself, I think it's significant. I think Bryce Crawford, I can name a bunch of people, but it used to be people look to pastors to be the pin, like the point people for culture and for spiritual thinking, and that's changing. And I think there's a beauty to that. There's a definite issue to that as well, but I like to lean into the beauty of it, because the word is going to get out. The gospel will get out.
Amen.
And although I take issue with some of the ways it's done, I think the potential for everybody to have a voice, and you not have to go through the church paces to be considered a voice, I think it's overdue.
Yeah.
So I like to watch, you know, people like you. You're different in that I think that you're continually trying to become a better version of yourself constantly. I don't think everybody's like that. I think you're going to keep growing, and it's impacting people.
Yeah.
But that's what I see. So did you ever think that your podcast or your YouTube channel would be looked at as a point of reference for people to go, this guy's my anchor?
No.
How does that feel?
Not in that sense, man. No.
How does that feel?
It's a lot of responsibility. It's a lot of weight. It's a lot of it's a lot of responsibility. It's a lot of, you know what it is? It's one thing to do it on the internet and see comments and numbers, and it can just all become just math and data.
Yeah.
It's another thing when I did these book launch events and spoke at some churches and align a couple hundred people that all want to meet, take the picture, right? Tell me their life story, get prayer.
Yeah.
That's when it's like, oh man, this is sacred ground. Like this is holy, holy, holy ground.
Yeah.
And that's been a good anchoring. That's a great anchoring for me to know the impact. I always say this. I just said this to Jack Hibbs, and he connected it to Greg Laurie. And I want to know what you think about this. And I've said this multiple times. I said this to Tim Ross. my theory is this: for the longest, within the context of the evangelical church, if you had a gifting and you were a communicator, your pathway was very limited. You could either be on the worship team, you could be a youth pastor for a while, or you could be a church planter. And I feel like what's opened up with Web 2.0, YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, is that there's a lot more options now for people. And for someone like me, that if I'm fully transparent, I am not a shepherd. Like, someone comes to me and is like, bro, like, I'm struggling. I'm like, I'm having sex with my girlfriend. I'm like, stop having sex with your girlfriend. And then you come back to me a second time and I'm like, we're not going to keep talking about this. But there's dudes that got that wiring where they're in the mud with people and they're walking people through. And I knew that I've never had that wiring as like a shepherd. So a part of me believes this, and I would like to hear your thoughts, is I feel like if someone like you, who has a clear, amazing communication gift, you could tell a story, you're a great orator. If you were starting today, when I really jumped into this, I was 30, 35 years old. If you were starting today, and I'm not going to say any other names, but I'm just going to ask you, do you feel like you may have landed into doing something like this where you're more of a speaker, author type of guy and less of like a local church planter type of guy?
Great question. I love the people part of it. And that's actually where my wheelhouse always was. And that's missed a lot in the commentary because people just don't know. That's all right. But the narrative with guys like me sometimes can be the upfront guy. But anybody who knows us knows that, man, I actually was built for the everyday, the walking with
the shepherding part.
And I would also push back that you're not a shepherd. I think that if the season came where you needed to do that, the capacity would start to develop because you're more of a shepherd than you know right now. It might not be. I always ask people, what do you mean by shepherd? Do you know how many different types of shepherds there were? A lot. And I think that we've always had these dogmatic bricks of descriptional vocations that we give people that has pigeonholed a lot of people. So I think when I first got started in ministry, the first guy, Steve Kelly, pastor of Wave Church in Virginia Beach, who I love dearly, it radically changed my life. I really met Jesus, under his leadership. He was the first guy that I ever answered an altar call for real. I answered a couple, brother. 10. It takes a while.
Sure, I was the guy every Sunday, had my hand up. I'm with you.
I mean, better that guy than the other guy. That's what I always say. Better to get saved every week than never at all. So take your chances. One of these weeks it's going to hit. But he just saw something in me, but it wasn't the charismatic preaching stuff. It was the people side, and that's how I fell in love with doing real ministry. Was the ability to do life with people, protect them, serve with them, cry with them, fight with them. So I loved it. And then preaching came secondary. Like, I never preached when I was at Bible college at Hillsong Church ever. The first preaching thing I ever did, Bobby Houston said, "Carl, can you speak about evangelism at the women's meeting?" And this is early 200s Hillsong Church. Bobby Houston has this cracking women's ministry I've never preached in my life. And I got up there, and I remember I brought a fishing rod, and I was going to talk about fishing to reach people, and I put the fishing rod down. I didn't know there's a mannequin behind me, and it had went like in this part of the women's mannequin thing. So everyone's laughing. I'm like, man, I'm funnier than I thought. And I don't know if it was good or bad, but I do know that was the first time I remember that God shows up when you're way out of your league. And it registered deep in my soul. So I never feared any moments because I was like, God's not never going to put you in a spot and just leave you high and dry. So all that to say, I love both to this day, and I feel like I was a good hybrid.
So if you were starting today, though, do you think you would have went the trajectory of a local church pastor versus maybe of an author, speaker type of guy?
I wouldn't have. I think I would have went straight to the pod, brother. Like, because why do all that? Like, why? And that's the danger, though. So when I see young people speaking super definitively, that's where I have some pause and I go, cool, let's maybe slow down, maybe phrase it in a way that's not so definitive because you're 23. So it doesn't mean what you're saying is not true. It just means you have absolutely no life experience to be able to stand on that. Doesn't mean it changes the truth, but I always talk to young preachers about the posture. I can deal, like, I'm 47. If Laura and I come sit in your church and you're a 30-year-old pastor, I got all the time in the world to listen to you. And I would love it if the posture was you're not quite certain, because how could you be certain about some of this? Because you've never lived half of what I've already lived. But I want to hear the truth. The way that some people present it, I think they're doing themselves no favors by preaching in such a way where it's like, I know what I'm doing. I want to hear from preachers who say, I'm not sure about a lot, but about this, I've got to read on, let me share it all day.
Yeah.
But it's the people pointing at cameras that it's like, hey man, like you're talking about parenting. You don't have any kids.
Yeah.
So let's go ahead and say that too.
Yeah.
Just couch it with that.
Yeah.
So that to me, I love the fact there's a new inroad to influence spiritually, and it's not through the church. And one of the benefits of being in a church is there's going to be people around you that can, speak some wisdom and give you some guardrails you desperately need. So I hope there's a cool balance in the future.
Do you think one of the reasons why people were so impacted, and if I'm just being myself, a guy like me, I'm in the music world at the time, I'm traveling, I'm doing shows, I'm working with secular labels, playing at secular colleges. And I think what resonated with what you guys were doing, and specifically Hillsong, New York City, I'm trying to figure out how to phrase this. There is we have one in culture. Like we have folks in culture.
Yeah.
This is what we need. But a part of that could have been, as I'm just processing, is that, man, did we want a Saul? Did we want a king that was taller, more charismatic? And now we have, right? Because what is the equivalent of a king today, right? Wanting to be like the other nations, wanting to be like the culture around us as a celebrity. And so I would say, from getting to know you, it doesn't seem like you pursued celebrity, but you got celebrity, and then that celebrity was probably reinforced by Christians who were excited that, like, Carl's doing it. He's with the athletes, he's with the entertainers, he's in New York City. And then when the struggle comes, when the fall comes, when maybe you needed to perhaps take a break sooner, and maybe that could have prevented, right? That perhaps there was a culture that kind of promoted that, and that's why some of us were so devastated that the fall happened.
Great question, man. You got a future in this. Great question.
Thanks.
No, I think like the celebrity thing's always funny. People project when they give those criticisms because, the lowest level is like back in the day, people were like, oh, Hillsong Church is trying to be cool. I always say, no, we weren't trying. We just were. We just were. That's just who we were. Don't get mad. Like, we're not trying to be anything. If anything, there was a huge swath of time there where culture was emulating what we were doing, not vice versa. And God always blesses who you really are. So I think there was an element of that I always totally held correctly. Like, first of all, we knew people who were real famous. There's Christian fame, church fame, and then there's real life. We were never confused on that. So we never really bought our own mail. We never really bought into any of that hype. We had no control over it. So like, what makes somebody a celebrity pastor? What do you mean by that? Like, imagine if you go to a church and your pastor is as cool as your pastor is. I love your pastor, Jeff. Let's just say Rhythm, God breathes on it, and now it's 3, 4, 5 times the size in a month. And then you start hearing chatter about Jeff. Jeff doesn't hang out with the people anymore. Really? He hangs out with the same people. There's just 10 times more, and you don't know it. And now the narrative gets skewed. That's always going to be part of it. But I always held it, brother, with, and I still do to this day, because I can see it when people, I talk to people all the time. They'll come up, say kind things, and I can hear the heaviness of the heart. And like, man, I really loved you. And when you fell, it was hard. And I know I did represent somebody who was in the thick of culture without conforming. And then when all that stuff happened, it's like, man, maybe none of that stuff is possible. Maybe it's not real. And that's part of the consequence of making choices like I made, is that it puts some stuff that's not in question back in question. And that was hard. It's still hard. I've had to really, over the years, work on holding that with grace because I cannot change it. But I like to tell people, no, man, it's absolutely possible to invade culture with the gospel and win. It is possible. I made little decisions along the way that had nothing to do with fame, nothing to do with celebrity. It had to do with my own character. And you don't know what you don't know. And so I overlooked some things. I hid things. I didn't get honest about some things. And they weren't always big. It's just this little trail that you start going off of. Like, no one wakes up in a explosion. You don't just wake up with your house on fire. Like, that thing was burning for a while. So, but to your point, I know that a lot of people hurt because especially if they were supporters, like they hear criticism about our church. That church didn't like that. And then if you want to make it me be that guy who ended up being that guy, okay. I can't say no. I don't believe that's true, but all the evidence points to, I told you, those guys can't be for real. They can't be. You can't do that. You got to do it like this because you'll end up like that. And it's like, man, that's not the conclusion you have to draw from that part of my story. And that's not even, that's a part of my story. I'm living my story right now. But that New York chapter, I choose to believe, and I know factually that the inspiration that it did give people is still going on to this day in a good way. If anything, they can do it better. But to run from culture, we represented a church that was like, nah, we've got the goods. We know Jesus. And so that was our mentality going into New York, was not to have a big church, not that, just we're going to go serve the city the best we can. And what happened. But chasing celebrity, wanting to be famous, all that stuff, man, it's as hollow as it sounds. It's not real.
Yeah. I remember hearing a quote that said, you don't chase fame, you chase faithfulness. And if fame comes as a byproduct, or if success comes as a byproduct, then so be it. Right. And so you choose to be effective, you choose to be useful, you choose to help. And then whatever comes of that.
Yeah.
Right. And so in the same way with whatever I've been doing on YouTube, it's never been, let me chase the numbers, because you don't have control over those variables. You don't have control over the algorithms, and if your take is what people want from you, but you just do the inputs, and God gives the outputs how he gives the outputs. Okay, I got a couple different directions. I want to talk about the cultural, the impact, that side, but you also said a bunch of little decisions. And again, you've talked at length about your story, so I don't want to get into it.
That's all good.
But there's a passage I think of in Song of Solomon, the little foxes.
What translation?
Oh, I think that's the NIV, isn't it?
I only read the NLT.
NLT. Okay.
Yeah. NLTV.
The little foxes that eat up the garden, right? And so as someone that, like, I've experienced sexual assault as a kid, I struggled with porn into my adult years, into my marriage, right? And having to wage war on certain aspects. And not even really knowing how messed up I was until I was like, man, I got pretty wild, intrusive thoughts sometimes. I need to unpack this in therapy, right? I almost started going to therapy before I quite understood why I needed it. But I'm so glad that I went. Because I think if someone's coming from sexual trauma, if someone's coming from being promiscuous in their childhood or being violated in a certain way, you can make those little decisions. And so for you, you've opened up a bit about your own sexual trauma in your childhood, and then that slowly compounds. Like, how did that work? What was it? And how did it go from, like, maybe something private and small to now it's this big thing that
so any sexual abuse changes your brain chemistry. So if that happens when you're young, you got a lot of work to do. And it's not my fault. It's not anybody's fault that's listening that's been abused. It is your fault, or is your responsibility now to do what with it. It's not enough for me to be like, oh, I was, this. But I had a template that was built around secrecy. I was abused in such a way where my brain registered sexual things with closeted secrecy, can't tell anybody, but it's exciting. I don't know why when you're 5, 6 years old, you don't know what's exciting, but your brain registers. So over the years, I lived a life of sexual recklessness before I was about 19, before I really, really started following Jesus. Those patterns do not shift because you get saved. They just don't. I actually heard, I don't know what podcast it is, 2 girls, they're pretty big right now.
Girls Gone Bible?
Yeah, maybe. Yeah. And I think they might be genuine, but she was like, I was delivered from this in a day. And I was like, wow, okay. Like, that's what I'm talking about. Like, there's so much room for other people's stories to be given weight in regards to how much time it might take to heal. But I say all that to say, I didn't really know at that time what sexual patterns were. And over the years, you do a lot of willpower, a lot of praying, a lot of genuine seeking of God. And there are good seasons, but if it's a pattern, it's not going to go anywhere. It just might be in a down cycle. So over the years, I would find victory, much similar to anybody listening. Everybody knows what your spiritual victories and losses can feel like. It's no different if you're a pastor. It's just the stakes had risen. And the more hidden that stuff was in my own life, the more painful it became. And that stuff just grows. So it was never like I'm just going to live with this. It was always, I'm going to get this right. And that's a lie you tell yourself when you're dealing with addiction. First lie you tell yourself is the one that you're going to get this figured out. When I went to rehab, I was surrounded by other men that we all had a plan to get it right before rehab. Every single one of us. And you just sit there looking at each other like we're idiots. You can't win some of these fights on your own. And when you meet Jesus, you get a clean slate. You're going to need people now to help you write on that slate. And I think that's the piece now that we're seeing come to life that's so beautiful, because the days of telling people at an altar, hey, new day is here. True. You're delivered. True. Let's talk about brain chemistry. Let's talk about habits. Let's talk about trauma. Let's talk about what you've been through. Both of these can come together. It's not less, it's not more, it's part of life. And I think that just wasn't a thing when I was 22, 23. It wasn't.
Yeah.
And so, that my story is not spectacular, brother, in that I had things in my life that could have been quelled. And on top of that, God was very, very gracious to me. Always. I always had opportunities, to be honest, about the little things. And I didn't take them sometimes. And I made up reasons why that sounded good to me. And I spiritualized them even. But that's the truth. I mean, even now as people are listening, there's probably some things that you can get honest about now and get not only through it, but you can use it for your gain the rest of your life, or you can hold it and you never know what that's going to become. Yeah. So anytime you don't share something deep like that, you got to look at it as a time bomb. Yeah. And I was walking around with many time bombs, and they all went off.
Yeah. Yeah. Could you point a mic just slightly towards?
I can, like a rapper.
There you go. I think that's spot on, and I think. I think for some people it is instantaneous. For some people it can be, and the Holy Spirit can do and just zap you and
absolutely.
Be good. I think for others, man, it is work. I mean, I meet with a group of guys every Saturday, and we go around. I got this from Jonathan Pecluda, the 3 questions. What have you done this week to feed your spirit? What have you done this week to feed others? And what have you done this week to feed your flesh?
I like that.
And I think just asking those questions, because then it could be before it turns into porn or it turns into a flirtation or right. It's like, man, I was looking on Instagram and I saw an attractive girl and I lusted out. Like you start nipping it in the bud, and then it's like, okay, well now I don't have Instagram on my phone.
Or even self-diagnosing. That guy and I was lusting. Says who? Let's wait a second. Let's talk about what you did. Let's talk about what this is. So that even that is a symptom of probably some deeper community needed, because a lot of the guys that you and I would meet with, they've already in their minds diagnosed what they have.
Tell me more, like unpack that a bit more.
That right there.
Okay.
I'm battling with lust, man. I hear like on this TikTok thing that I am sent to check some of the rhythms. Most Christian commentator guys, they want to talk about lust. And to me, I go, cool, man. It's also okay to branch out a little bit and talk about what goes into the systems before what lust is. There's a lot going on. It might not be that. It might be something as simple as, the rhythms with which you sleep, different things that you're adding to your, like lust is such an easy thing to point at, criticize, and feel bad about and get saved from.
Yeah.
Harder is the everyday habitual work of renewing your mind day by day, digging, day by day, but just feels better to be able to, here's my symptom, somebody give me an answer. I don't know, man. I think it's a walk. I think it's a journey.
I've thought of it this way before, and I'm sure somebody will push back in the comments.
Somebody will push back on comments?
There's certain people that have an addiction to food.
Yep.
And it's not good. And it's from a place of, man, it's like deep. It's like security.
Yep.
You didn't get food as a kid. Something like that, right?
And other people lack of discipline.
Yeah, lack of discipline. But then there's other people that are like, it's sweet, it's salty, it's it's all these things that's engineered in our food.
Right.
And it's not super deep. It's like you just like salty, sweet, crunchy food.
Your blood sugar clicks like
your
a
blood
clock
sugar
for it.
clicks.
Yeah.
And so you're just over consuming something without the same stronghold as someone that like actually has an eating disorder. So to your point, I definitely think that there are dudes that think they're dealing with lust, and it might just be like, bro, you live in a world where there's a lot of attractive women and they're everywhere. Yeah. And men tend to be more visually driven. Yeah. And so they like the human body form in a woman. And so it's just, it could be just that deep. Like you're stimulated because there's an attractive girl there. And that in and of itself
Yeah.
is that's actually normal.
Be careful what you name.
Yeah.
Tell guys, hey man, I struggle with anxiety. Hold on, man. Like the moment you give it a title, now there's weight to it. So I'm very slow to do that. That's why, like, I went through a lot of addiction recovery stuff, but I definitely talked to my one of my leaders and I said, hey, I'm no longer going to say this before the meetings because I don't want my brain to connect with the confession that some of you guys make. And that's your own journey. And there's a place for it. But I'm not going to say I'm a this because I don't believe that's true. So the moment like, hey man, I deal with lust. Okay, cool. What else might be true? You're working really hard. You are attracted to women, bro. Welcome to being a man. Welcome to having a body that's working.
Welcome to having testosterone.
You're surrounded by this type of person right now. And maybe you are now learning what you're going to need to become a man of integrity. This is the same situation held two different ways. This feels better to the legalistic Christian than one. Nah, man, you got to tell he's a luster. No, you probably are.
Projection.
So you love to label other people with it. But what if we're not ready to go to lust yet? Like, why do we have to go there? Why do we get all the power to that? What if we go to this? It is obvious that everything in me right now is sexually activated. And I'm tempted a lot and I'm dealing with this. Cool. What would it look like to live a life that was free, peaceful, healthy, and godly? Let's talk about this for a little. Before you know it, the conversation's way over here. We're living in grace. There's power here rather than lust. We gotta pray. Got to watch your back. You definitely can't be on the worship team for at least 3 weeks, depending on how long the rabbit trail was he went on. How long was it? A dark hole you were into? Okay, cool. 5 weeks off the stage. Like that is the way church has handled things like that. So of course people are going to put a lot of weight on it.
Yeah,
I just think there's a better way.
Yeah, no, I think that's helpful, and I think more conversations. I think about this is probably better than less conversations. I talk a lot about the law of replacement, where we know the things to remove. Like when I came to faith in Jesus at 17 years old, I knew that like, oh man, I can't keep sleeping with my girlfriend. I can't keep looking at porn. If something were to happen and we were to get pregnant, I can't get an abortion. Right? I knew the things that I couldn't do anymore. Yeah. But there wasn't a lot of conversation of like, and now you get to, and now you get to, move in these areas. Now you get to. Man, your body is pumping full of testosterone at 17, 18 years old. You get to go to the gym and channel some of that testosterone. You get to
be excited about having sex someday.
Right. You get to work these things out, and there isn't enough conversations about the law of replacement. And what I found in my own journey is the more I added good things to do, the easier the bad things fell away. And it was like, man, the more I went to the gym, the more I woke up early, the more I didn't stay up late. It was like I found that these patterns slowly drifted, and it didn't have to be these massive moments. And so I think there's not as much conversation about like replacing healthy virtue.
Only in the church. Yeah. Because you just spoke directly to the most relevant and modern rehabilitation talk here's how it typically works with any addiction. So you fight to get sober. That's not really the fight. The fight is to live a sober life. And if guys don't have something they're building to, they relapse at double the rate. This is the same thing in Christian living. That's why you get someone to get saved, and for the first 5 months, they are the judge and the arbitrator, and they like telling everybody else what they did wrong because all they know to function is what they need to fix in everybody else. Living a beautiful, godly, powerful, joyful, grace-filled life, that's foreign to people. So it's easier to look back and look at what you're deconstructing than it is to look forward and say, what might I build? And so you just nailed it. Like for my life wasn't about stopping doing the wrong things. It was the beginning of living a completely healthy life across the board. Like, it's not that I don't want to stop things. I understand that. But let me see what happens when I build, and things can drop off you that you've been trying to pray away for years because you actually got a taste of life. And I think that's the model of Jesus. Walk with me, with me. And on this journey, transformation is all around you. That to me, there's evidence, in my life and in the lives of people I've helped lead for years. That works a lot better than the shame-based pointing of the finger, diagnosing sin, here's your answer. I think people are starting to turn their own lights on to the fact that maybe shaming myself into grace has never been God's plan.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. Yeah. I mean, we could talk about this stuff for
could.
hours, man, because it's so, it's a lot of what I explore in my book, Godly Ambition, of like, hey, man, remove, but then replace, remove and then replace, and replace it with good stuff. And for every vice, there's a beautiful virtue on the other side of that vice, you know? So for sure. Let's talk about culture and kind of that line between, like, at what point in your guys' journey as Hillsong, and do you feel like, was there ever a time where the line was crossed too much into appeasing culture or appearing like culture versus saying, hey, we're going to build better culture through some of the virtues that we have to be a distinct people. And so we're in the world, but we're not of the world. That means that, man, you know, you can dress cool and the music can sound fire and the preaching could be good, but there's still these distinguishable things that really distinct us as people. And so like that line, I guess what I'm getting at is the idea of like the attractional church, right? Like, when I came to faith, it was seeker friendly. Then it became attractional, and now it seems like there's this desire to move away from the attractional and to say, no, we want verse by verse teaching. We want high church. We want art. We want beauty in church, right? And there's a lot of folks becoming Catholic and Orthodox, and that desire. And so they kind of look at our style of church or whatever you would call it, you know, and kind of scoff at it, like, oh, you non-denominational evangelicals over there, you guys just take warehouses and buildings and convert them into churches. But I guess and I think there's beauty in that. I think there's beauty in taking a strip mall and making it into a church, right? Same. But in terms of Hillsong in those days, 10, 12, 13 years ago, do you feel like there was ever a time where you guys kind of crossed too much in being like the culture, that you weren't distinct enough from the culture?
No. I think there's room for growth and improvement in all you do, but we were distinctly set on who we were in some way. And there's some things that are just non-negotiable. So I like the premise of like, how many things can I do that are obviously different? That's a fun way to live. Because church-wise, like, I never know what people talk about when, like, the attractional, seeker-sensitive is always so silly to me to pigeonhole things like that. Like, what do you mean, the seeker-sensitive? Like, what do you mean? Like, do you mean considerate of people that don't? What was it? Brandon Lake, who got, I guess he said something beautiful about, I want to write songs for the guy in the back. Yeah,
for Bubba.
And people really freaked out about that. I'm going, how, like, the pushback culture is so funny to me. So like, let me get this straight. So Brandon Lake is wrong for wanting to consider my friend that I bring, that might there be a song that resonates with a guy who doesn't understand church lingo? This is wrong. I've never understood that whole way of thinking when it comes to stylistic church-wise. But as far as us, man, I really think we did a good job of being distinctly in it, not of it. There's obviously some areas where everybody can get better, but I mean, we're human. But no, I think we did good there. Yeah. I don't see that. I don't look back at that and go, we would have done that differently. I think personally, what's going on inside that nobody can see, that's what you watch for. Because you can go somewhere and make sure you're not, of it, but you're in it. But you go home and you harbor the thoughts and you think about what might be, and that's the stuff that makes a difference in your life. So I think that's the shadow work is way more important when it comes to, what kind of life you're living than what people might see in the public.
Okay.
Do you have any distinct examples of what you mean? Because I'm trying to think of like the church itself. We got some services and we have this, like we did nothing that would be remotely controversial in my mind. You're talking about outside of the four walls of the church. What was that church culture like?
Yeah. So yes, outside of the four. So I could give you one example, but I guess what I'm getting at is like, I think people are today desiring to have the bar raised towards something greater than themselves. Yeah. Instead of having the bar lowered to say, hey, we're gonna make this on-ramp as easy as possible. Yeah. And so the talk, and to be fair, I'm not talking about your preaching, I'm talking about in general. Yeah. The talk is less centered about you and God has a plan for you and God has good things for you, and more about, hey, God, like, you're not the main character of this story.
I love that.
God is the main character of the story. Believe that. You need to get in line with God, and that may mean you got to die to yourself to be born again, to walk in the fullness. And by the way, that fullness might come with suffering and persecution depending on what you do and where you are. That's kind of what I'm getting at with regards to that, because I can't point to any specific sermon of yours. I have an example that I'll bring up in a second, but that's kind of what I'm getting at. So it's just like, hey, let's not use words like sanctification in preaching. That's too That's
Yeah.
true. Let's not say the Bible says. Again, I'm not saying you said
Yeah,
this. I'm
yeah,
saying this.
no.
This was deep and wide. Like this is stuff I liked. Andy Stanley. Like this is hey, we're not going to say the Bible says. We're not going to say.
I did the opposite. Not to cut you off. I'm sorry.
No, that's good.
I did the opposite. Like I like redeeming and making clear those terms. And that was one of the biggest misnomers about us is that like the cheap shots from the cheap seats would be that church grows because one of the main reasons our church was incredibly influential is because we preached very clearly about Jesus, period. We didn't mince words. We did not say sin. We did not use words like sanctification, but we would explain it. Like I just went to a church recently and I just was like, it was cool, but I was like, there's just they went from a song right into a giving proclamation, and I love ritualistic things. Like one of the things I loved about New York was dipping into Catholic churches. And I would just sit in the pew and the reverence and the peace and the calmness. Like I love that aspect of it. And I think there is a deep need for some of the most pure, easy, non-bells and whistles part of our faith to continue to rise up because people do need it. But I don't think it always has to be an either or thing. I think it's okay to make what cannot make sense to some, make it clearer.
Yeah. Yeah. I just talked to a group of 6th to 12th graders at Calvary Chapel's Halloween jam. They did like a Halloween thing and a lock-in for the kids. And I talked to them and I said, hey, like I'm going to talk to you guys like you're adults. I'm not going to talk to you guys like you're kids.
Yeah.
Well, my own son's sitting in there. And I talked about like sanctification, but I said sanctification means this. It means cooperating with the move of God in your life.
Beautiful.
And justification means this. It means that you're justified because of what Jesus did on the cross for you. So I'm with you. I think we absolutely should use those terms. So I guess coming back to the Brandon Lake example, like I think there's nothing wrong with making Christian things distinctly Christian and unapologetically Christian.
Absolutely.
And I don't remember like because I think his songs are overtly Christian.
They are.
Like heartfelt hallelujah because a lot of people don't know what hallelujah means, right?
That's one of the words I would always stress with our worship leaders. There are some words where you have to take time to explain. Otherwise, it's silly. Hallelujah is one of those words. Explain it. I used to explain amen every week. When you hear people in our church say amen, it's a fancy word. It means let it be. Boom. Now you just make somebody feel less alien-like. It doesn't mean we're not protecting, we're teaching you as we go. That was always our thing. We're not going to change, but we're definitely going to give you space to be a part of this journey and not make you feel like an outsider looking in because nobody can learn like that. So I don't think you have to sacrifice truth to make it clear and relevant to people who need it. Otherwise, Jesus, just take them out of the Bible.
Yeah.
Like, what do people think Jesus was doing when he's like faith, like, mustard seed?
Yeah.
Like, why would he do this? Because he was passionate about people connecting and understanding. Even the visual aspect of things is beautiful. Like, I think the backlash to flashy preaching is like, I want expository verse by verse. Cool, bro. Do that.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean it's better.
Yeah.
Like, I don't want these illustrations. Cool. Well, 70% of humans learn that way over that way.
Yeah.
So, okay, cool. That's where I get a little bit in my old 47-year-old state, hot and bothered when people start getting their preference mixed up with the spiritual principle.
Sure.
Do not get that twisted.
Yeah.
You don't like that. Doesn't make it right or wrong. It just means go to a different church, bro.
Yeah.
Relax.
Yeah. I think it's the funny thing about, I love expositional preaching. We've been in Acts all year, like verse by verse, but there's still an opening image. There's still 3 points.
Of course there is.
There's still a structure to the talk where you're not just,
absolutely.
And there's guys that could pull that out. Like I was at I preached at a Calvary Chapel in Port St. Lucie, and I pulled up the pastor's sermon, and man, he's just jumping into Matthew, and he's cooking, like he's getting it. And so there are guys that have that sort of gifting. And again, we love expositional preaching. So, but even in the scriptures, a lot of what the epistles are is Paul answering questions.
Yeah.
Is like, hey, there's this thing happening in Corinth, and these guys are, blah, blah, blah. And so he's just answering their questions, right? And I think even a lot of what the YouTube stuff that I do, it's really just answering questions. Like people, for every video I've ever made about every pastor, it's because a bunch of people are saying, hey, how do we process the Carl Lentz thing, man? I'm really struggling with it. It's like, well, this is how I'm processing. I don't know, man. It's crazy. We got the Ravi situation and the Carl situation, and this is heartbreak. And and so it's like, it's a lot of the YouTube is like just answering questions, right? Hey, me and Carl from the future, and we just wanted to clarify one thing. Your teaching, especially the stuff I heard from a decade ago, did have, and a lot of times was expository. You would take a chunk of scripture, but the difference was that you would just open with an image. You would tell a story. You would tell a testimony. I know you wanted to speak on that as well.
Yeah, no, we were talking about the way that you and I were talking about some of the people that like expository preaching is different than expository preaching. And that's a huge differential. I think it's beautiful. It's needed. It was my favorite way to communicate. I still think it's probably the most sound way to communicate the clear gospel is to let the text do the talking. And we did it in such a way where it really came alive in a cool way. I think it's powerful. And so we were talking about more about the spirit with which somebody holds their view. And so sometimes the way expository preaching is told, like, oh, that guy's wrong because he doesn't do what? That particular method. And that's what we spoke to. It's not right, it's not wrong, it's just what's there, what's working, what's effective, what's comfortable for that communicator, do it. But someone else doesn't have to look bad, so your way can look better.
I preached at my church a couple weeks ago, and we are going through Acts. Pastor,
did you do an expository or what's the
deal?
No, you're one of those guys.
No,
did you do an illustration?
I did an illustration.
I don't want to hear guys like that. I want to hear just the Bible.
Just the Bible.
No illustrations.
None. He wouldn't.
It's shallow.
He wouldn't let me open. He wouldn't let me preach.
Good.
The part of Acts that came up. He's like, you could just do a one-off, and I'm like, no, but I want to preach this part. He's like, no, I got it. I'm keeping that for myself.
Hilarious. As long as you didn't do any illustrations that made sense.
Yeah,
we can't have that.
So we open. So I talked. It's about identity in Christ, and I land at this place of identity is cultivated through community, and I basically get to like, hey, one of the beautiful things about a church is that you can do life on life multi-generationally. Someone a season ahead of you, someone a season behind you. Yeah. All that sort of stuff. And I said, one of the things that we have to do better as a church is like, hey, no one should be coming in here and feeling like a stranger. Some of you guys come in here week after week, you sit in the same places, you don't speak to people, you don't say hello. We need to get better at like meeting someone. That was the big challenge. It's like, before you leave today, I want you to meet someone, say hello to someone. There's older saints in this room that could be that one relationship you need.
I love that.
There's younger folks in this room that need to come over to your house and just hang out. You don't need to make dinner. You don't got to get fancy. Just let them come hang out. So I do this whole talk, and we unpack it on the If I Had More Time podcast, which you saw the set of that. And we were like, man, like, yeah, we got to figure this out. We got to help our people not be so culturally inept because of SoCal culture, where you can live next door to people and never know their name. You could be around people and everyone's coming and going and everyone's on the move.
Yeah.
And they're not friendly. We got to do better at hospitality. The church grew because of hospitality in the first 100 years. So we were like talking about it, and then my wife comes home, and she leads a women's group, and she goes, we had to stop and spend 20 minutes explaining to two women today why they couldn't have sex outside of marriage anymore. And one of them is she just got divorced, she's single. Another one, and they were full on talking about how they were going to go, and they were excited to not have the kids, and they were going to go hook up this weekend. And like, we had to stop and tell them how, and literally walk them through scripture on like why you can't have sex outside of marriage anymore. Right. And so here I am talking to my pastors and elders about, we got to get better at hospitality. Meanwhile, there's women and men in our church that don't know that, like, you can't smash your girlfriend anymore, bro. Like you can't go up and hook up anymore on the weekends. Like you can no longer live this way, right? And these aren't just casual attenders on a Sunday.
Been there for a while.
They're in a small group. They're like in a group, which is beautiful that people are getting saved and they're saying, I want to plug in, I want to be a part of this. It's beautiful. So I say all that to say, where I think that there are aspects that we do need to address from the pulpit. And I know you did, but there was one specific moment, and I don't want to put words in your mouth.
Go ahead.
Where I think we're on Oprah, and I think she asked you either about homosexuality or abortion or both.
The View?
Was it The View?
I was asked about abortion.
Yes.
Let me tell you the story from my angle?
Yes, tell it from your angle.
So Paula Ferris, great friend of Laura and I, at the time, she was part of our church, a host on The View. And I had a book out, and she's a friend. She was like, definitely come on. It'll be cool. Like, I'll make sure it doesn't get crazy. She got hurt. I think she slipped on ice going to the studio that day. I show up to The View, and it's everybody but Paula. And I knew that somebody was going to try to use one of those hot button things to derail the whole thing. And two of the hosts were really cool. One host was not cool. Knew right away. She just was waiting. And her big thing was like, how do you handle abortion in your church? And I could tell by the way she asked it, this was not a genuine question. She was looking to try to catch me or land a point she had, and I wasn't there for that. So she said, if I'm a woman in your church and I come to you and I say, I'm going to have abortion, what do you say? And I said, well, my first statement, if I recall this correctly, my first thing would be, what's your name? I would ask the person their name. And that was kind of where I sat there. And my point was, I'm not going to use this time right now to get in a debate with a person who's not interested in a conversation and have this thing go left. What people fail to understand is I just did an article in GQ a couple weeks back where I clearly state our every stance about abortion, everything we believe. So I proof's in the pudding. I've been there. In this particular moment, I did not feel led to go down that road. So I was like, we have our thoughts on abortion. People in our world know if a woman came to me and Laura and asked for our help, we would love her. We would get to know her name. We would show her what we believe, the Bible says. But it wasn't, and people really got up in arms, Christians, a certain type of Christian, and accusing me of whatever. So that moment to me was, it was a very specific context. Now, I'm not going to go right there. I didn't want to do that right then. Didn't feel led to. Wasn't my assignment on that day. And I still spoke to the truth. That is a great answer. What would you tell a woman who wants an abortion? What is your name? Where are you from?
Yeah.
What's your story?
Yeah. Did you recall saying something to the extent of, these are private conversations and we don't talk about these hot button issues from a public standpoint or something like that? Was it something
I think I've said something like that in a media moment.
Yeah. So I guess the question around like culture, right? And the top down culture is like, is it more advantageous to just tell people, yeah, man, like, no, like you cannot have an abortion if you're going to follow Jesus. You cannot practice homosexuality if you're going to follow Jesus. Now, that doesn't mean that God doesn't love the person that same-sex attracted. That doesn't mean that God doesn't care for the person and is empathetic to the person that, is in the situation where she feels like the logical option is to kill a baby. Those two things, and it's not just you. Like there's someone else that I'll tell you that doesn't want to come on and talk to me because they're afraid that I'm going to bring this up. And I'm like, well, isn't clarity kindness?
Yes.
Like people should know where we fall on these things.
You're not wrong at all on that logic train. That's my response. In that moment, a template I always used, there was a guy named Jesus from Nazareth, and he often would answer questions with other questions. And I love that about that man. And I feel like there is room in our world to feel confident in a decision you're going to make in the moment. I'm confident in my stance on abortion. I'm not worried about what people might think in that moment. And if you want to judge me off of a clip from The View, go for your life. You didn't know me anyway. You won't know me past this. So I think both things are true. It is very effective and godly and often needed to say exactly what's clear right away. And there are times where maybe the most effective thing to do is to keep a conversation going to land that with more power later. And I've lived in both those worlds at times, but 99% of the time, brother, I'm unless I felt a complete pull like I did in that moment to not be her puppet, because I wasn't going to be able to answer it beyond what she was waiting for. And she was going to make a big spiel about how she hates churches and because we believe this. And I wasn't there for that. I wasn't going to let her have that moment. So I chose to go a different direction. But I'm confident in my record.
And it is important context to say you had just addressed it in a news article prior. Would you say those are topics that were addressed from the pulpit in terms of the unborn?
I would do more now. For sure.
Okay,
I would be clear. I would be clear on. But I'm 47 now, brother.
Do you feel like that's a part of you that's grown and evolved?
No, I think that it's just how I feel right now. I look back on some of the most hot button stances, and we were clear. We really were, from sexuality to abortion to politics. Like we were in New York at a very crazy hot button time with all that stuff swirling. And I'm proud of my team. I'm proud of where we stood. And I wouldn't change anything. I think hindsight, when you grow, you get older, you look at it and you're like, man, where was I leaning and why? That's my question for my 35-year-old self. What was the biggest motivator? Was it fear? Was it exhaustion? Was it trying to be right? Those are the questions I know that I would ask a young pastor now. Forget about what you're going to say. Who are you? Who are you as a man? And what does that man preach? And so, I think I'm open to us maybe, doing more on some of those topics. But then as soon as I say it, I'm like, nah, man, we did the best we could at that time. For sure.
Interesting. Yeah, that's an interesting. Yeah, that tension that you're holding is interesting to me.
Yeah.
Because if I'm honest with you, my, I guess, ideological, I don't know what you would call it, but my journey was, I'm coming out of predominantly Black neighborhoods. I'm coming into hip hop, spoken word poetry in the mid 2000s, which was like before woke was a term. It was conscious. And that's where I cut my teeth learning how to communicate in predominantly non-Christian spaces.
Yeah.
So I had this poem that was very it's called "I'd Like to Apologize." I'd like to apologize to any person that was hurt by a certain individual that claimed a divine purpose but implied you were worthless.
Hey.
I'd like to apologize, and it was about apologizing on behalf of Christianity, right? And so I do this poem, and all the very far left spoken word people would love it, and then there was this atheist there that kept antagonizing me. And so I came up, I did another poem, and it was called "I'm Done Apologizing."
Oh, I like that.
And it was like, I'm not, like, abortion is murder. Y'all are tripping.
My heart leans towards the only apology sermon I've ever resonated is Conor McGregor. I would like to apologize.
For absolutely nothing. I love that.
Man, the way he said that.
It was so good.
Where's my belt?
Yeah.
Bro, I think... What were you?
So I was going with that is like my own ideological journey has shifted, and I find myself here. This is where I find myself. I was left leaning, center left, then libertarian Andrew Yang.
Yeah.
Then I was like, man, seems like police need some more checks and balances. Let's bring in body cams. Specifically, we were advocating for
seems logical
for a campaign called Eight Can't Wait, which was like specific things that police should have limitations and what they certain kind of chokeholds, whatever. And then post 2020, post George Floyd, I found myself holding more or less the same views. I've always been pro-life, right?
Yeah.
Always felt like systems should require accountability. But then I found myself forced into the right. And I had somebody sit down with me, a dear friend of mine, and I put out a video right after Roe v. Wade got overturned. And I said something to the extent, I said, I find it ironic that the same people can't define what a man and a woman is, also are telling me they can't define what a baby is. And it was in the light of like everyone's acting like the sky was falling because of Roe v. Wade. And I said, I just think this is disingenuous. Like you guys it's a warped worldview. And so I found myself, and one of my closest friends sat down and said, why are you on the far right now? You've gone far right. And I go, far right?
Yeah.
Like the far right hates me. Like these gropers, Nick Fuentes, Andrew Tate, Tucker, like those folks hate me. They want nothing to do with me. This is just basic Christianity.
Reasonable living,
And so as my own journey has shifted, there are aspects where I go, man, did we get duped with some of the BLM type defund the police activism? I was there with you. We went and I went and protested, right? My son is Black, right? And but I look back in hindsight and I go, man, there's a couple dozen people that were getting killed by police that were unarmed. Awful, tragic, terrible. Let's get body cameras. Let's fund the police better. And then there's hundreds of millions of police interactions that go without any issues. Did we get kind of duped in some of that? I know you were a part of some of those things. And I'm saying this, by the way, people hold this over my head till this day.
Which part?
You were a lib. You donated money to Andrew Yang.
Okay.
That sort of stuff.
People can't grow and change. Find that person. Bring them up in the chat.
That would be the funny thing is like, wouldn't it be good for me to have grown?
Why is that an insult?
Yeah.
You used to be different. Now you've grown.
Right.
Okay, cool. Yeah. Did we get duped? No. Do I recognize now how close and how murky it was? Yeah. And I say that from a place of like, I was never about, first of all, I don't trust stats, right? Like I think it's so funny when churches use stats for like church growth stuff. I've never been surveyed a single time. One time at church, I did all day at Hillsong, New York City. Anybody ever been interviewed by Barna? Nobody ever. So I don't know where they're getting these stats. Ever. Outreach Magazine. Hey, what? But when it comes to some of that stuff, I stood with my friends and their experience, whether they were right or wrong. That was my heart. So it's like, if my friend feels like this, like I had a dear friend in New York who, in the thick of it, and he had such a horrific experience with police that I stood with him. I don't know, man. I don't know. I love you. And this is where you're at right now. I'm standing with you. that got gray quickly, for sure. We talked about this at lunch. Like, people who had an activist heart, if it wasn't measured or anchored, you get stolen by a side so quickly. And I think, we did our best at that time. That would be the one area where I was like, this is, I remember meeting with 9 disgruntled people in my office one day. And in the stuff that they were saying, I went, wait a second, are y'all basically, I realized, oh my gosh, if we go here at all, it means all of this. I remember that day vividly in my office going, I'm not going to get sucked into this. Like I've reached my limit where I can no longer, I'm going to get hit by both sides anyway. But it was confusing, man.
Well, and you guys did get hit by both sides.
Oh, for sure. We got hit by both sides before we landed.
Yeah, because when the Hillsong, one of the Hillsong NYC documentaries that came out, I don't remember which one, but it was the one you were in.
Yep.
All of a sudden it turned into they're protecting systems of white supremacy and all, and I'm like,
that wasn't geared at us as much as it was the bigger picture.
Yeah.
But
it was from a former Hillsong New York person that was saying this stuff, and I'm like, wait a minute, because the critique in the evangelical circle was that you guys were too liberal,
too much,
and too progressive.
Much. Yeah. Like I always thought that was cute. I was told that's a beautiful sign of great leadership is when you frustrate the same amount of people the same way with the same issue. So it's like, okay, if racism is an issue and all you are mad, then I'm probably pretty close to being right here. And I think that's a good way to think about, look around the issues in your life and go, who likes me, who doesn't. You can find out a lot about the things that you believe by who criticizes you. But to your original question, very close to getting duped on some stuff. For sure.
Yeah. Well, and here's the sad part is like, man, racism an issue. I would say it's always been an issue. The human heart has always. Is it a systemic issue that's corrupted America down to the bones? I don't know about that. I think that bad laws have bad consequences. I think the war on drugs, the 94 crime bill, bad consequences, definitely impacted my in-laws. My mother-in-law, my father-in-law in and out of jail because of some of those harsh on crimes bills. And I've seen the impact of that, and my sister-in-law. So is it the most important issue that we need to all pause for? I don't think so. I think there's other stuff that that's really impact. And so it's one of those like, man, I feel conflicted about it in hindsight, if I'm honest. And I think that people being clear on it now, because here's the unfortunate part now, and I don't know how much you're tapped into this, but now there's an actual arm of the right that's like actually overtly racist,
clearly racist,
and they're clear, and it's not they're not covertly racist.
We are,
we're racist. We're racist. We're gonna say it to your face. We're gonna drop the N-word, and then you have mainstays like a Tucker Carlson that people think is this like not progressive, but like a free thinking person platforming, a Nick Fuentes. And it's like, man, this is getting dark really fast.
Okay. Can I ask you something about platforming?
Sure.
Never understood that word.
Yeah.
Because I see Tucker Carlson having a conversation with the guy and I get to make my call about Nick Fuentes. Not Tucker Carlson. So I always think that's a very victim-y thing. Like, how can you platform somebody? Don't watch, bro. Don't watch.
So that's a great pushback. So this is how I would say. I would say I don't think there's any issue. There's nothing wrong with having people on that you disagree with. If the entire conversation is a softball conversation,
that sucks.
Okay. And I watched that conversation, and I felt like I'm asking you harder questions, and you're asking me harder questions in this conversation.
That's different.
And we just spent 3 hours together.
That's a good clarification.
And right. So I think that's the thing is like you push back on some stuff I've said. I push back on some stuff you said. I think that conversation was just the complete most gentle, kid glove
that sounds weird
version that I go, man, no, he said some really wild stuff,
which leads you to make the easy inclination. You must agree because this is like a promotional thing.
Yes.
I got you.
Yes. And even in this conversation, like we're able to nuance our own stuff, and you're able to say, man, kind of this thing, I don't know about this, and there was none of that in that conversation. There was no, hey man, you dropped the N-word pretty flippantly. You've said like, some wild stuff about Jews and Hitler and Stalin.
Yeah.
Like, so that's what I mean. So I love conversations that have tension and conflict, because I think that's how we learn and that's how we grow.
I think why I resonate with you on some level is if I look back at that time and I wasn't conflicted, I would be ashamed. because it wasn't an easy thing to understand. So the people who were so resolute, they always made me nervous. I'm like, what are you, like, have you not thought this through at all? Like, you are clearly on this side, you're clearly on that side. Is it that clear? Like, so to me, I like sitting in the seat of, like, I mean, long, agonizing nights. Like, you're brilliant, beautiful pastor. Who knows the wrestling he's had to do leading this church, right? That is a lane that people will not understand. And it's a heavy, beautiful part of the burden of being a pastor. And I feel like on that one, I served my time in that I carried it with as much reverence as I could. And it just was complicated. And we did our best. We led through it very humanly.
Yeah. No, I appreciate you saying that. And I will say this, and again, not to keep reiterating this, like, I think coming out of the situation I came out of, I've grown to appreciate what pastors do, and I understand that what I do is different than what you were doing.
Sure.
I recently got to shoot with Navy SEALs, and there's levels to it.
I'm from Virginia Beach, Virginia, brother. Like, SEAL Team 7's everywhere.
Yeah, there's a guy like me that's like, oh, I'm going to get my conceal and carry, and like, what gun should I get?
You know how you break up a bar fight with Navy SEAls?
How's that?
Hey, guys. Anybody want to go get some fresh air? That's how.
So I say that to say, like, I think there's levels to it. And I think what the pastors, in my opinion, are the Navy SEALs. The missionaries are the Navy SEAls of the kingdom.
Interesting.
And what I do is not that.
Well, let me say something about what you do, because I feel like the commentary, this is fascinating to me. I'm not saying this is you, but there is a case to be made that now it's a viable calling to not be you don't make the content, you commentate on other people's content. That to me is very interesting. So now you don't have to do anything. You don't have to play in the game. You don't have to fight the fight. Your whole job is to watch other people do it. And now you're known for commenting about their life. That is something to be reckoned with. And there are people who do it well because they own that. It's similar to where some of the NBA players will push back on an analyst that's never touched a court. There are some people I've seen criticize me or criticize any pastor. They have never in their life tasted or walked in those shoes. Just say that before you give your heavy-handed criticism. It's baffling to me. And I'm not saying that people are doing the right or wrong things on the pastor side, but I am saying there is something to, like, I lived my whole life as a pastor. So when I speak to pastoral journeys, it has a different weight. A 30-year-old TikTok guy who's got 500,000 people who's going to make comments about pastors. Okay, man, understand though how big a step that is for you. Might be worth a little bit of reverence and a little bit of because you don't know. And I remember even during our journey of me and Laura learning how to walk away from the commentary, and that's not how I'm built, brother. And it took a lot. And it was smart, and it was wise, and it was appropriate. It would not have been appropriate for me to challenge all these people. It would have been stupid. And I was tempted a lot early. But I walked away because I realized the people who judge you the harshest know you the least. They don't know you. They know a construction of you. They have their idea of you, and that's what they're judging. They don't know you. So I was able to hold that and go, you know what? The people who are making docs, and they don't know us. They know what they think they know. Because if you knew somebody, it just makes it, even to go back to the other issues, man, if your wife is not white, so when you speak to things, it's very different than the beautiful couple in Tulsa, Oklahoma, who's grown up there their whole life, and they're a white couple, cool. It doesn't mean right or wrong, different weight. So when you speak about it, I do lean in differently because, man, you would know. So when it comes to pastoral stuff, I think that this new wave of TikTokers and commentators, just hold it with a little bit of reverence, because you don't, pastors. What do you mean by pastors? Like, but what is that? What all pastors are what mega churches? Say some names. Say some names. Have some guts. Put some names on it. Quit talking, because you can't. And that's why people use big labels. Because that if we took people's ability, and here's my thing, man, you're good at this anyway. It's foundational, principled thinking. What do we know for sure is true? Report on that. And if you know for sure it's true, then cool, that's all you get to say. But beyond that, now it's gossip. And if we take that off the table, what will Christian commentators have to talk about? But what they choose to do is pretend that this is needed. Nah, brother, it's gossip. You don't know that it's true for sure. Like my situation, what do you know for sure? A, B, and C. But you've spent 8 videos talking about my motive and my heart. That's sin. It's gossip. You're a fool. But yet you've wrapped it in verses, and now you think this is acceptable. I think that needs to be reckoned with, and God will do it. It's not like it's a big deal, but I just see it a lot. I'm like, man, you that's how I live my life. What do I know that is true about you for sure? That's what I'm going to talk about. Otherwise, man, I don't know. Now I'm speculating. Now I'm trying to judge your heart. That's wild. So think about if all the Christian commentators only spoke to what was absolutely true, there would be very less, they would struggle to keep their lights on if that's how they make their living, because they spend most of their time talking about stuff that they don't know if it's true or not.
Yeah. Is there any names you want to drop or any people that
I'm not, if I knew names, I would say it.
Okay.
I'm not on it enough. I just know from what I've seen.
You mean like primarily TikTok, or what platforms do you think about?
What comes to mind is TikTok.
Okay.
I've seen it everywhere.
I'm not on TikTok. So I can't speak to whoever you're speaking about, because I'm when you're saying this, I'm curious, like, do I know any of these people?
I mean, I saw a video early on, like when I got to Tulsa, I'll give you a perfect example. What was absolutely true, that me and my family moved to Tulsa. That's all that anybody knew, but yet there were so many people who did these things about Todd is going to do this with Carl, and they're going to team up, and they're going to do hours. That is pure speculation, gossip, sin, wrong. But that's how you're getting your little things to add up, and you're making money off of this. And you think you're a warrior, you're a watchman, you're a gossip. That's what you are.
Hey, me and Carl from the future, and we just wanted to clarify one thing. We were having this conversation offline, and a lot of what, Carl, you were talking about was specifically your interaction with the TikTok commentary community, speaking with such certainty on faith matters and pastors and that sort of stuff. And not necessarily Mike Winger or Melissa Dougherty or folks who make, some people call like discernment ministry, but folks that are doing stuff on the latest cover-up culture thing and stuff like that. So I wanted to clarify that for people so they don't think you're taking shots at anybody within the YouTube sphere. That I would say is doing good work.
Yeah, I think we did a really good job, I think, of qualifying a lot about how great some of the opportunity is in that sphere to do the right thing the right way. And our conversation was about people who maybe don't have a lot of track record to speak about things as though they're certain. And we talked about the difference between what you know is absolutely true. That's a beautiful thing to speak from. If you don't know if something's absolutely true, it just demands a lot of the right spirit and the right posture. And that was our heart. So I think some of the ministries you named, I'm not necessarily familiar with. I'm really grateful for people who give commentary about things that are there, whether it's scripture, Bible interpretation, hermeneutics, you name it. It's essential. It's not just I like it. I actually think it's really needed, especially in an age where there's a lot of church confusion. So it's a great thing. No one's ever regretted over clarifying, by the way. So shout out to you for even having the discernment to want to do that. But both of us have a heart for truth and for things to get out the right way. And that was the heart of our conversation. So I love discernment ministries when they're done the right way. We need it. It's a beautiful gift. It's desperately needed. We were speaking to the opposite side of that when it's just people giving their opinions about things they don't know about. And that's dangerous, and it needs to be checked.
Yeah. One of the things, even folks who made videos about me, the way I try to frame it in my brain is I think what they're trying to do is be good Bereans, but without having all the information and without going to the scripture and properly engaging with it. And so whether that's TikTok, whether that's YouTube, I think that's the heart. And I think a lot of times, more often than not, I think they cross the line, but there are some people that do it well, and I wanted to give them their flowers. Yeah. So one of the values that when I speak on anything, I try to just speak on what's publicly verified.
Yep.
So it's like if someone, because I get that accusation, but it'll be about like, hey, isn't like, here's an example, Forrest Frank, Corey Osbury. Hey, isn't this kind of gossip? It's like, no,
that happened.
They're posting this.
That happened.
And we're talking about the thing they're posting on their social media.
Absolutely true.
That's different than pontificating. I had Tim Ross on right when you went over to Transformation. And that was one of the things that we were like, why are y'all mad that Carl's Carl's working with Mike. Like, this doesn't make any sense. Like, someone got a job. This is a good thing.
Yeah.
What are you guys upset about? You know,
Yeah.
so that same week, I think that was announced. Tim Ross was here with me.
Oh, wow.
And we had
Love Tim.
4-hour conversation. So I'm with you. And I think this is what I think. And maybe I'm wrong. I think a lot of these guys aren't at local churches.
They're probably not.
Yeah. I don't think they're at local churches. If they are, they're at churches they're not known, and at churches they aren't connected at.
Right.
And so there's not a ton of people that can speak into these things. And then so what will happen for someone like me that's like, no, guys, I want to speak to people, not about people. I'm not going to do this anymore. 2023, I drew a hard line in the sand, and I said, I'm not going to do this anymore.
Why? Why did you do that?
Well, I told you offline.
Yeah.
Because I ended up at a healthy church, one.
Okay.
Healthier church. Two, because I started meeting great pastors. Greg Laurie took an interest in me very early on, and would repeatedly drive all the way down here, sit in my little studio, and
seems like a really nice man.
Amazing dude.
Yeah.
Amazing dude. And not only took an interest in me, but one of my first times preaching in years was at their young adults ministry, you know? And so it's like, imagine when I was doing the things you're talking about, or getting really close to that line of speaking on something that's not publicly verified.
Yeah.
And then a Greg Laurie goes, hey, can you come preach at our young adults group? And just believing and pouring into me. So it was that. I ended up then meeting Pastor Chris Brown. I watched one of our closest friends passed away. He my old studio, he lived in the room in the master bedroom. His name was Tanner Ross. He got leukemia, beat it, and then post-pandemic it came back, and he died Christmas, November 2022. And I saw North Coast, the biggest church with the biggest budget, with the biggest staff, and the way they walked through that with his family, with his widow, with the way they loved him. And then Pastor Chris Brown came and sat down with me, the biggest pastor in the area. And so I started meeting pastors, more and more pastors, and they were just like, bro, this is how much I make. This is where I live. This is how I live. You may have this view, but I'm telling you, this is not reality.
Yeah.
And so I just started having more experiences. And then I looked at the data, and I just said, man, I don't want to do this anymore. I don't want to make videos about people when I could hopefully move towards talking to people.
Wow.
And by the way, I actually do think it's in pastor's best interest to talk to people like me, or to people who
I agree.
are objective, because I think what happens is they can tell their story and contextualize it instead of it being,
I agree.
Ran through. Now the feedback is, well, Ruslan, you're a fence sitter. You're a fence sitter because now, there'll be this on this comment. You took it easy on Carl and then this and that. I don't know.
What do they want you to ask? I
don't know.
What do they want you to ask?
Yeah, I don't know.
They don't have answers for that. They just don't like me.
Yeah.
And I always tell people, just be honest about that.
Yeah.
Stop picking apart because you cannot push back on healthy living and God redeeming a family. You can't.
Yeah.
So if you just don't like a person, just be real. Just say that. And I can live with that.
Yeah.
But did you ever feel like you got sucked into some of that? Because I see a shift, but I know we talked about a thumbnail you used one time that I go, you're about clicks, because that's the only reason why you would ever put something like that up there. I think it was something that somebody else had used talking about me, and it was a photo, and I went, and you have shifted from that a little bit, but when you would use stuff like that, was the motivation to get clicks, or was it genuinely like what you're thinking on stuff like that?
So I'll go through a timeline where I don't make our thumbnails. And we've changed our thumbnails a lot.
Okay.
And we've gone, hey man, Zach, you got to chill with these thumbnails.
If there's some sort of mean face on mine when we do this, I'm gonna be so mad at you, dude.
So we've gone through a process of just like, hey, we got to chill.
Yeah.
We got to chill because these are real people.
Yeah.
Right? Like, these are real people. And so, yes, I think it's about both. And I think if the idea was, and sometimes is, hey, what's going to disrupt people scrolling to get them to click into the video?
Fair.
And then the idea is, hey, once someone clicks into the video, let's try and give a charitable view of that conversation. So I don't remember what that video was about particularly, but I want to say when you launched your podcast, I had pretty much all positive things to say about it.
You might have. I'm just saying, I think it was the Rogan thing. It was
a Rogan thing. So yeah, Rogan basically had called, hey, anyone that looks that good and is walking around with his shirt off and with the D root showing, he's slanging a bunch of, You know what I mean? So on and so forth. So
Yep,
it's
I
like
understand.
Rogan, you know, kind of called it about a year before anything happened with you on his podcast.
Yeah.
And that photo is just something that always kind of comes up, and it gets people to
yeah.
click into it. You know, do you think Rogan was
prophet?
prophetic in a way?
No, I think that
Did you? Well, first of all, did you actually watch that clip? Did you hear Rogan say that
bro,
when
I
that came
tell you,
out?
I was listening. I love Joe Rogan. I was listening to the pod. I love Bill Burr. So imagine my horror when I'm like, wait. I mean, I'm listening. I'm like in real time going, that sucks so bad, because that whole photo was frustrating. Like it was. I mean,
Yeah, tell us what is the photo? Tell me about the photo.
Honest story, bro.
Okay.
Is that me, Laura, and a very well-known celebrity were in a very hot field, and we had a beautiful conversation, the three of us, and I had my shirt off because we were hooping. And I walked around the corner. There was the guy who took that photo was in a tree. We were swarmed by paparazzi. I get in the car of this person with Laura in the back, and I am so flustered, I ran directly into a cement cylinder and wrecked his car.
Oh no!
And then we sped off. So that photo was just it was horrible, and it was just like the weirdest. Like that's how we know fame, Christian fame. That anxiety-ridden paparazzi life of not being able to breathe. It's for the birds. It's horrible, but that's what happened. So we're it's a blazing hot day in LA. We're in a park. I'm not walking around the streets of LA with my pants falling down, bro. It's not happening. But that photo got circulated, and what they were speaking to, I can't say he was wrong. So it's like, it's not what happened. It's not my story, but he was like, it just, but then when I saw it, it felt like friendly fire. And I had to grow accustomed to that. When I saw people using it, I'm like, well, you know, it is what it is. If you don't want to be in situations like that, don't do things like I did.
Yeah.
Real easy answer.
So what did you think when you heard Rogan say? Were you just naturally listening to it?
Well, I thought that we were going to hook up at some point. We still, we know some people in that circle. And I was looking forward to getting on and ask him exactly about that. Like, why do you feel like that? But hey, there's nothing you can do, man. I just felt like this is bad.
Yeah. And I think I told Hector at the time where I said, because he told me, he's like, man, Carl doesn't like that thumbnail. And I was like, well, I'm not the one who took the photo. Carl took the photo.
I didn't take the photo.
Well, you were in the photo.
It.
Yeah. And I said, hey, when Carl comes on, tell him let's get together, let's get on. And I said, and then I said, I'll make sure we don't use any more thumbnails like that. And so I don't. But again, I will say that when you started your podcast, it was almost, I would say 99% of the things I had to say were all positive, because I really liked what you were doing.
Thank you.
I also don't title and package the videos. That's not a cop-out. It's still on me.
I got you.
You know what I mean? And that's still my fault, my responsibility. But I think when you have someone and all they're thinking is click-through rate, and that's the world they're living in, it is a degree of like, no, but this is a real human on the other side of this. It's a real human. He got a family, and like he doesn't want that picture out there, and that's what people think about it. And so I'll take that one on the chin. Like that's not cool. You know what I mean? When you're thinking about a human that you want to believe the best about.
And you weren't wrong either, because that's the game, and that's the world. You're humble at heart, so it's easy for you to say that about something like that quickly. But man, it's funny because I gave away my social media stuff, and half the reason I did is because I was so bad at, I would never let anything get posted because it didn't have enough context. And everybody was like, bro, you can't post that because people will think. You can't, no, that thought needs 8 other thoughts. And the moment I let that go and gave it to my guy Grant, who's unbelievable, more people have been getting helped because my hands are off it. Because if it was up to me, nothing would ever go, because it's like, that could be misconstrued. It needs 19 more sentences. And I'm not wrong, but that's not the world we live in anymore. And I had to accept that and go, all right, so that's been an interesting transition for me at 47 to go, I guess, man, context doesn't matter anymore. So we're just going to say things, and we're just going to fire shots, and that's the way it is.
Yeah. And I will say how stuff looks, and then the click in the video. We call it click bless. So it's not clickbait, it's click bless. It's like,
interesting.
Stop someone, make them click on the video, and then it's like net positive. How can we find something positive to celebrate? The pivot happened.
Cool.
The pivot happened in 2023 when all that happened. And I just drew a hard line in the sand. I said, we are not making any more celebrity pastor videos. I think there was a video, Mike Todd was the last celebrity pastor video I did. And it was the video of their Easter thing.
Yep.
And I said, man, I feel like at this point, I don't know if this is a symbiotic relationship. Like he does something, we react, everyone gets clicks, and it just doesn't. And I said, like, this is what they are. I'm not going to react to it. And as the last like video I made, that was critical.
Have you ever? Why don't you come with me?
I'd love to come with you.
Easter thing that TC does.
I would love to do that. So I've reached out to Mike through his brother for years.
Okay.
So this is the thing that people don't know is I usually end up reaching out before I speak on anybody. And I've been reaching out to Mike over DMs before I ever made a video on him. And I'll tell you why. I'll tell you why offline. There was a video I saw that inspired my book, but I'll tell you offline. So I've been reaching out to him, and I know his brother. Me and his brother follow each other. And
Grayson or Brentham?
I think the second one, the one that the spit in the eye thing happened to.
Brentham, yeah.
Brentham, yeah. So I've been trying to reach out through him, his old social media guy, Roland.
Ron.
So I've reached out through him, and so it's like, hey, let's talk, because I actually think this can contextualize you better. But then I also think there's some things that people don't understand. And I think what Mike, it's also like, how much of this is cultural? Like how much of this is missing the cultural context of what's happening in Tulsa and the transformation.
People don't care,
world.
brother. Like I've been sitting in that church for almost 3 years, and I absolutely love Mike. I've been around a long time.
Yeah,
and I realize, because I was out of the game for a significant portion of social media's quick trigger change. And so to come back in, that's just a part of the world now. You're going to have people that they're not interested in what you're saying. They're not interested in, like, I remember like Mike preached a beautiful message straight from scripture and then breaks into an illustration. And, the comment would be like, why didn't this guy preach from the word? He just read the scripture, and this is called expounding. It's called a visual illustration. Like, and you realize there's a portion of the Christian community that intellectually might be struggling. And that's part of our faith. There is a lane in Christianity where people don't have to learn how to think logically or critically, and it's damaging. And I think that the new wave of what God is doing is allowing people to dig a little bit deeper than hang out in these weird circles where you don't know how to think for yourself. Like that. So to me, that's a symptom of culture. But Mike's is a perfect example of a situation that gets skewered because of distance, and people aren't interested in the real crux of it, the content of it.
Yeah. So that was the last one I made. And I think I told you we did the megachurch shenanigans, but we could only say nice things.
Yes.
So we did do the video of him in the with the bell bottom pants and the yellow jacket, and that was like hey, that's a really beautiful color on him. Like that complements his skin tone, and that was genuinely trying to be positive. And while he was getting dragged for it, and I was just like, "Hey, that's a cool angle." Like, but it's also tongue in cheek. I told you about that. You know what I mean? And that was about whenever that went viral. Yeah. So that was the last thing that like we touched that, because I genuinely think God uses flawed people, and I think perfection is the enemy of progress. And I think I know God is using Mike Todd, and I know God is using Transformation Church. And if I don't necessarily like it or agree or understand it all, that's not on me to be the judge, jury, and executioner on those
That
things.
shows depth, though.
Yeah.
To be able to say, that's not for me, and move on with grace, that's called logical depth. To be able to have to pick something apart and make it small so you feel big is pseudo-spirituality, and it's rampant. It's like preference. You don't like the level of loud that this music is. Doesn't make it less holy, man. Your soft acoustic guitar doesn't reach heaven faster than that amp. It doesn't. You like it more. Cool, man. We do not have to turn this into a spiritual battle. It makes us all look bad. Stop it.
Here's an example. I'm watching the video of you at whatever conference that was, right? And I'm watching it, and I'm sitting here, and I'm listening to it, and at first it's bugging me because Mike keeps saying, when you go through the fire, who's going to be with you? And the fire, and the fire, and the fire, and the fire, and the fire. And I'm sitting here like, why is he talking about what happened in these kind of ambiguous terms, right? And then I'm getting frustrated at him. And then you come on and you go, and it rocked me because you go, it was my sin and I take responsibility. And you come in with this hyper responsibility. You called it for what it is. You called it sin. And then it clicks to me, the fire is the theme of the conference.
Yeah.
So I'm sitting here being critical of this dude for using language
Wow.
that's actually the theme of the
It's
conference.
the theme of the session.
And I'm sitting here
Yeah.
like, you know what I mean? And that's why I'm like, oh man.
Okay,
no,
brother.
no.
Let me, it's a very humble admission, and you're not alone in that. I asked my kids, and I don't know if you've seen this, but I've never understood the comment culture because I'm older. We don't do that, but I guess we do now. And all my kids are on the couch, and they would look at Insta before the photo or TikTok. They go to comments. I said, hey, everybody stop. What's with that? Well, which ones here everybody's saying? But you haven't even seen the thing yet. There's something ingrained in people now where you want to see what the comments are. You're now going to build a view off of what that comment flow is. Well, not everybody likes this, so that must mean what? That to me is a problem. And I do see the opportunity to change it so beautiful. I just tell people all the time, make up your own calls, man. Like to look at comments and gain faith or feel shame are equally problematic.
Yeah. Yeah. And people can go viral off of a comment and build an audience
Off of a comment.
by just leaving a punchy zinger of a comment. So that's super.
And I will laugh with the best of them because some comments are very funny.
Very funny.
Like me and Laura are that old couple.
Yeah.
And our kids will send us memes thinking that they're hurting us.
Yeah.
We're like, no, this is us. Like old couples passing. That's what me and Laura do. And we love it.
Yeah.
So I'm all for look at these comments at the appropriate things that are funny, in my opinion.
Yeah. And I will say, I think commentary, just like analysts in the NBA, is often, hey, I'm trying to process this.
Yeah.
And you're a trusted voice. Help me think through this thing. Right. And
Yeah.
when something is newsworthy, it becomes something that people want to process something with. And so when you are the news and people are then commenting, it's not that they're, I think necessarily, at least that's never been my heart. It's that the audience is trying to process, how do I think about this? I don't know how to think about this.
And that's fair. And it's needed. And that can be beautiful.
Yeah. So in that Mike Todd transformation, the conference going through the fire, I sent it to you right away. And I was like, man, the introduction had me once it clicked that, oh, this is the theme of the thing.
Yeah.
Then you started talking and I just was like, man, what in it? And I honestly teared up. Like I was like, man, how awesome was that? Now, you kind of alluded to feeling abandoned by some of your crew, right? And we don't got to go and specifically talk about people, but everybody knows who you guys were. You know, Judah, Chad, and Rich Wickerson. You guys were like, and Chris Durso was kind of in your guys' orbit a bit too. And so unpack that for me of like, what was that like losing those people? And at the same time, gaining a friend like Mike and gaining new friends through this process.
Ooh, tricky. Rich was like a best friend, little brother forever. My kids have a funny memory in New York. He was there over so much where one time Charlie comes into our room. He was on a blow up mattress and Charlie goes, Rich, do you have a home? So I think when I, made the decisions that caused the breach, it definitely rattled people on different levels in different ways. And, Judah and I were best friends for a huge portion of my adult life. And when you go through a relational break, you got two choices. You can focus on what caused it, or you can focus on the response of others to your action. I only find one of those to be fruitful. And so their journey has been theirs. And I respect it. What's really helped me is stop trying to understand it. I think that's a misnomer when you go through heartbreak. And that's what it was for me. It was like a grieving. Like I really, really love my friends. And to lose guys when you're in a tough spot, it stings extra hard. If you can focus on your role in the story, you're free. It's so tempting and even warranted sometimes to have a human feeling. And I had to have those moments. There were some chapters there where I just had to not therapize it and just talk and be like the A, B, C, and D and get that stuff out and then reframe it into the correct way that I want to live, which is what's my role. So I love Judah a lot, love Rich a lot. I'm proud to see what they're doing. And they're on their own journey, and life is long. But Judah gave Laura and I so much support. We would not have been able to start New York the way we did with the faith we did without Judah and Chelsea. Rich, You know, he and I, we did like trench ministry forever, like, young adult ministry back before anybody had lights on them. You know, we just have great memories. And so that's cool. You know, it's okay. Not everything is for forever. And, it's always going to be near and dear to my heart, because when you lose people, I didn't lose them. I lost that type of relationship. But like I told you before, you know, I'm not the same guy I was when all that stuff went down or the years preceding. And that's the gamble all of us take with friendships. Like if you pull out of a friendship, hey, there's a chance that someone could get through it better and you're going to miss out on that. Chance that they don't. Yeah. But it just depends on the way you hold it. Yeah. So I respect everybody's right to process my actions. And that's the only way that you can survive that kind of heartbreak.
Yeah, it sounds like, but just even in hearing you say this, you say these things with a weight. You say these things like you're great.
I can't lie. I'm not going to be like, oh, it's nothing. Like, no, I care about my friends. Yeah. I cared about them deeply.
Yeah, yeah. Do you feel like one day those relationships will be not necessarily restored to what they were, but to be in a place where there's open communication and you guys are cordial and friendly?
Yeah, I do. Yeah. I mean, life is so long, and in the more I think if you get older in a healthy way, you can let stuff go, and you can look at what's new. And I'm always up for that. Like again, if you are conscious of your role in a relational break, it shouldn't be a hard story. Like at the end of the day, why did our relationship break down? My actions did that. And I can stay right there and just work on that. And that's what God blesses. So yeah, I would not be surprised if there's another chapter that, who knows? I just worry about what's in front of me. So grateful for and that's what we talked about. A stranger came up to me at the gym and they said, and we laughed about this off air, about how the funny statements that I've been given, the words from people. But this guy was like, hey man, I'm sorry. I said, sorry for what? For the way the church treated you. I said, I appreciate you. I know what you mean. Let me just clarify this. The church didn't treat me bad. A couple situations were hard to deal with, but the church is lovely. I could name 10 pastors right now that helped me get to a rehab that I would not have been able to get to, that nobody knows. They never asked for fanfare. I've barely been able to thank them. And that's the real church. That's what God's doing. And for every pastor that lands I am not the norm. The norm is the pastor that does not make choices that damage his family, damage his pulpit, bring harm to the name. God is restoring it, will always restore it. But for every pastor that ends up on a documentary because he failed, there's 1,000 that do it right every single day. That's the truth. That's not as sexy. That's not going to get you're not going to have this cool shepherd of a church who's pastored for 50 years and done his job. Like, that's the world we live in, but people need to know that's the truth. Don't buy this hype that all churches are this and all. No. The local church is still, to me, one of the most powerful conduits of who Jesus is that we're ever going to have on this earth. And that's the truth. So, yeah, I say that with reverence, because I know for as much ground as we took as a church, and we did, that was a significant chunk of trust that fell with me. And I'm thankful that God has restored that for people. And anybody that has, been hurt by my actions, I let down, I always say, hey, I understand and I'm sorry. And it's a beautiful opportunity for you to rethink about this faith. Maybe in this next chapter, no man or woman can have as much weight as I did, to the point where it might throw you off your faith. Like, what might that relationship with God look like? And so, yeah, man, it will always matter to me. Yeah. I'm never going to get over that. I don't want to get over that. I'm going to carry it with me with reverence, and God will keep using it.
Hey, me and Carl from the future, and we just wanted to clarify one thing. I think people have compared you to other folks that have gone through similar things. And a thing that I caught wind of, and you don't have to speak into this if you don't want to, but I had caught wind of that you did make a pretty big effort to go and attempt to reconcile with everyone that worked with you, worked for you, and work towards that. I know personally know multiple people that said, yeah, Carl's reached out, and we've hashed it out. Some people may still not like where that you guys landed relationally, but you did make an effort and have made an effort. Where as some of the other folks that got caught up, that there isn't always that repentful heart. I don't know if you want to speak into that with any other details, but I do think that's very distinct.
Yeah, I appreciate you saying that. I think that I've done my best to make amends where I can. I only control my side of that. And when you have hurt people on a mass scale, which was my situation, I have to handle those consequences with extreme care. And when you go through a rehab type AA, the way they hold amends is when you can't personally apologize to somebody, you live a life of amends. And it's this beautiful way to hold it, because I can't go to, we had a platform that reached millions and millions of people. I can't personally go up to every person that trusted me and I broke that trust and say, I'm sorry. When I can, I do. And then for those that I can't, the only thing left for me to do is live a life worthy of the call, and in hopes that God can use that to bring some peace to people. So I feel like that's my responsibility, and I love it, and I own it. And it's a way to redeem things when it can. And everybody, how people receive that amends, that's not my business. It's my job to at least come to the table the best I can and let people do with that what they will.
Would you say the hardest stuff that of the arrows that were thrown at you and shot at you were from the way the Christian churches reacted, the way friends reacted, or the way non-Christian friends reacted?
The churches didn't surprise me because that's our pattern. I was a part of that pattern. There were a couple of people that fell during my time, and I thought we should do more, but I was like, I guess we just don't. I hope those guys make it. So it didn't shock me that the pattern continued with me. I think, and the rest is all, like I said before, like when you go and you see people that don't know you just taking shots. Like one night before I got off social media, there's this beautiful post my wife put up, and there's a comment on there. Somebody like, cheaters will always cheat. You're a fool. This man's a B, and C. Oof. And I clicked on it and I looked at the photo. I was like, this isn't a fair fight. Like, for me to comment back to this person, they're doing the best they can. What am I gonna change in this moment? Like, what kind of man am I gonna be if I'm gonna react to people that are, I put some food on the table that I don't love, they're seeing it, and it's like, you got to learn how to live with it. Like I tell this, brother, all the time to guys, like, don't hate the game you chose to be a part of. You cannot step up into a front line of ministry and be sensitive. Doesn't make any sense. This comes with the territory. So live your life, stand on your virtues, proclaim those values, and understand if you're gonna try to change the world, it's gonna come with some heat.
Yeah. One of the things that's refreshing is that in hearing you, hearing your podcast, hearing your heart, the conversation around like what disqualified, and is someone disqualified permanently, and is someone goes back into ministry, and so on and so forth. And I've seen a lot of folks that walk through similar things, and they're running back to the pulpit the moment they can. I've seen folks, I mean, there's some really dark stuff, of folks that have been
diplomatically said, my brother.
Of like stuff that involved multiple women, and like really, I'm not going to name names here, but people know what I'm talking about, of then family members coming out and say, no, that brother needs to be restored. God said it's okay. And this is like, clear clergy abuse, younger women, older dudes, massive platforms. You haven't ran to the pulpit. You seem to be very sober. How do you process that specific aspect of like disqualification, and what does it mean to be disqualified? And I've made some pretty bold statements. Like I've said, like, hey, I could probably never attend the church of a pastor that was in ministry, got divorced, and kept preaching.
Why?
Because I think if you can't lead your household well, I don't know if you can lead the church well.
What does leading your household well mean to you?
Thriving marriage, thriving family, so on and so forth.
So how much stuff can go on in a pastor's life where his family isn't thriving? Let's just say his teenager goes through something. What do we do?
I think we pray for that pastor, and we hope that they grow and restore and all that sort of things.
Even though his family is not thriving?
Well, let me rephrase that. So that's fair, because I'm not saying thriving as in everyone's always honky-dory and everything's always perfect.
Okay.
By thriving, I mean you have a functional, stable marriage. There isn't adultery. there isn't a dysfunctional household, and you're married. You're married. You're loving each other. You're doing well.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm not splitting hairs there. I just think that gets murky quick in that, and I agree with you pretty much here. I just think there's a moment there when people talk about the qualifications of an elder.
Yeah.
And I say, yeah, I agree with it. And do you understand if we start breaking that down, what that could look like?
Mm-hmm.
So this guy's disqualified because the Bible says this and that. Cool. So let's go to the household.
Mm-hmm.
Let's get real clear here. Running a godly household, what's the limit here? Well, right then, because of your relationship, you're going to make conditions for.
Sure.
Everybody does this.
Sure.
We just don't admit it.
Sure.
So it's like, my pastor's legit. Really? Well, he's got a son that's an alcoholic, and he professes to be a different sexuality. Yeah, but that's just them going through a trial. Oh, okay, cool. Because according to your definition about this other pastor, he's disqualified. So how are we doing this, right? I always challenge people to really, really sit in that. But as far as it pertains to me, the Bible is really clear about what qualifies somebody to be a minister. I think it's appropriate when you've gone through what I've gone through to take a lot of time, and it was a big deal. It is a big deal. I didn't have a small church with a small impact, and I think one of the ways that I can make amends, is to continue to live my life. And I have no ministry aspirations right now. I don't have any plans to do that. Who knows what the future could hold? But to me, it's I think God anoints who anoints. If you have in your life the ability to redeem some things and get healthy again, I think who decides who's qualified is who listens to the preacher. That's who's going to decide. And people have to live with that.
Yeah.
So I often say, like, this guy shouldn't be doing what? How does that impact you? Here's a good question in response to that, brother. Like when someone says, "Carl, are you disqualified or qualified?" I say, "Can you just let me know what the impact on your life is when you hear the result? What's the impact?" None. But you're really passionate about asking the question. Why might that be? What else might you be asking? So that's one of my favorite quick triggers is to ask somebody, what impact is this answer going to have on you? Carl, you qualify? And I'm like, okay. So to answer your question, the Bible's very clear about qualification, how someone gets put back into ministry. I think that's a conversation for each church to have individually, and it's a decision for each congregant to decide whether they want to be a part of that. But that's going to come down to some wise counsel. But for me, I'm so excited about my life. And I told you about what I'm most excited about, I love what God's doing. And life is big. Ministry is a lane, a vital one. It's important, but guess what? There's a lot of lanes out here. And, we're just being grateful to be alive, grateful to have a family that's together. And I love the church. So we'll figure it out.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's a good question. I mean, a good answer. I think the line, for me, that line of divorce in ministry, I'm not saying someone that
I got you. Yeah.
was not a Christian or a Christian at 20 in ministry gets divorced and then comes back and plants a church at 40. I'm not saying that. That's the line for me. Though I've had pastors that have gone through a public divorce on the channel. And I said, man, I don't know if I can go to your church. I don't know if I could be a member at your church, but I think God can still use you.
But you couldn't go because he got a divorce. And you're like, that moment there gives you the impression that him moving forward with this new marriage, whatever, it makes it, you're unable to be led by him.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. If I'm being honest, or they're still single. Like for me, it's one of those things. Now, again, I'm not saying that God can't use
sure, but your preference is to be, and I think that's beautiful. I don't think that's wrong or right. I think it's your agency to be able to go. For me personally, do I want to sit under the teaching of a guy who's on marriage number 3? I don't know. I'd have to really weigh that up.
Yeah. Yeah. How have you processed everything that happened to Hillsong after the fact? Because Hillsong NYC happens, and that was obviously devastating, and you walked through it, and you got help, and you treatment and rehab and all. You did all the things, but then there's this whole other aspect where there was a restructuring and Brian Houston, and he sits down and all that kind of stuff. And so it goes. The comments I kept seeing when your situation happened, and again, comments, right? But it was like people that were like, hey, like, you have no idea what's really going on because of this. And then sure enough, stuff starts coming out, and now he's sitting down, and I think he's starting a new church and all that sort of stuff. So I know it's hard for you because that was your pastor. But how have you processed that now? You walked through your thing, and that was devastating, but then it was like, oh, wait, no, there's way more here.
Yeah. I think when you heal and you do the work, you're able to remember it all, not just the hard things. So often what trauma will do and pain will do is get you to remember facts, but the facts that aren't helpful. So the healthier you get, the more so with Brian Houston, honestly, I'm able to sit in some really helpful facts, which is, I love that man. He was extremely gracious and kind. He's a phenomenal church leader, believed in me, gave me room to run, supported me, supported my wife, loved my family, had and has his own issues. That's for him and God to deal with. We all have to pay I've had to pay the consequences for my decisions. He has to do the same. I don't really get into anything else because it doesn't do me any good. So I'm able to sit. The last chapter was horrifically bad, broke my heart.
In terms of what you guys went through.
Me and Brian, because it's my guy. It's like my pastor. Like it was awful. But again, my role in the story was what? Okay. And does it make his response to it right or wrong? I think there's a beautiful way to hold heartache like that. And to me, you put it in the hands of God. You just say, what's best, what's most resourceful for my life right now? To keep going back to this well that brings pain, or to come over here and dig this new one. And that includes my memories of Brian. The good, the bad, the human. He's a human leader. And that's how I hold it. Like I'll let other people commentate on what's going on with him or what their reactions were. I think it was sad. It was really sad. I felt responsible for a lot of the initial impact and what that did, but I wasn't the cause. I was a domino in a bigger play. And that's just the truth. So
yeah, we were talking a little bit about like the idea of institutional church, mega church, celebrity pastors or pastors who are celebrities or whatever you want to call it, right? Has your views shifted on some of that stuff in terms of these massive brands that get built out and you know some of the actual abuse that can happen in these situations? How's your view of your stream or the stream of Christianity that you came out of, the evangelical, non-denom, charismatic leaning, big personality, charismatic leaders, great music, great presentation, type of church? Have your views have changed on that? Have they been refined?
Changed.
Okay, tell me how they changed.
Changed in that let me think this through. Good question. I haven't really thought about it in this regard. Because I've been on the other side, I think some of the criticism is funny to me. I think it's like old school junior high insecure people talking about the cool kids sometimes. That's what it sounds like. It's like, I want to go to a small church. Let me just tell you something about growing a church. When any pastor says that, I respectfully push back. Our church is always going to be like this. Often, here's what happens, and I'll say this real slowly. Most pastors start out with a big vision. They can't do it, so they change their theology to now suit what their fruit is and try to act like that's how we're never going to be like that mega church. Brother, you can't grow your church past what it is. Be okay with that. Don't try to put a theology on this. Don't try to knock every church. The only reason why they're growing is because what? What? Rather than glean from what they might be doing right, you're so small that you're going to pretend and start making up reasons for why their success is not legit. That is the weakest, smallest view of a leader I've ever seen in my life. And it happens all the time. Like, we're never going to be like that church. Brother, you're in no danger of ever growing. What if you just worried about that? And what's your inference? How big is too big? Let's talk about it. And people don't like these conversations because it gets really cloudy quickly, because it's like, I go to a small church. Well, heaven forbid God would move in your small church, because then you'd have to leave. Heaven forbid. So you better watch what you're praying, because I like my church. I know everybody knows. I saw one whole freaking thing, bro. This is like me, my therapy for commentators. This guy was like, if you go to a church and your pastor doesn't know your name, go to a new church. My pastor knows my name. I said, brother, do you understand what you're not saying? So let me get this straight. If your pastor doesn't know your name, what kind of life are you living where that is needed? Is it awesome if your pastor knows your name? Sure, awesome. But as if that is like the linchpin move for how to decide. Like, I go to a real church. My pastor knows my name. Cool, man. I go to a church and we had revival there. There's 5,000 people there that weren't there last month. So I don't know if I'm going to see my pastor. We're wrong?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
So I just think people need to, again, it comes back to IQ, logical, critical thinking, digging beyond what someone has told you. Mega churches are bad. Can we please define what a mega church is? I'm so sick of this word, mega church. There's about 5 churches that are really big and huge and incredible. Mega church is what, over a certain amount? I don't even know the term.
2,000.
Okay, over 2,000. So if it's at 1,500, we're still, we're still on a first name. I don't buy any of it, man. I feel like, imagine the kingdom of God that has churches that are huge and loud and epic and people get saved and they love it. And then also churches that are small and they're content and they're beautiful and they're reverent and people who resonate with that love it. And everybody kind of works together. We're reaching everybody. Why is this a hard concept? Because it takes humility for people to think like that.
Yeah.
So much more fun. Like, no, we can't have elevation worship. The songs just sound too good. Oh, we're starting to criticize because the songs sound too good. sound like the world. Yeah. What do you mean sound like the world? Yeah. That beat sounds what? Who do you think created music?
Right.
Who do you think created the chemicals in your brain to be able to form your hands, to be able to do, like, what are we talking about? So some of that stuff, you're getting me excited here.
No, I'm glad you're excited.
I just feel like there's got to be a better day coming, man, where we move past this ridiculous age of my church is better than your church. Would you shut up? How many funerals have you been to? I do feel like sometimes when people criticize small level things, they have never been around big level problems. And you lose a couple people to some overdoses, and you lose a couple people in the middle of the night, and you see some people tragically go, and you see people battling with suicidal thoughts, life and death. Do you think I care about what jeans this pastor has on? I'm trying to get somebody to the gospel, right? If that is the essence of the spirit of a Christian in this day and age, we'll win. But my gosh, there are bigger fish to fry. Like, why do you have so much time to parse through church preference? Let's go on to bigger and better things, man. Let's try to show some people a different version of the Jesus that they apparently do not know, because there's some wrong things being put out there that we can make right.
Yeah. No, I think my thought on this goes, a lot of times it's the biggest bad fallacy. So when something gets big, therefore it's bad. And it's not much deeper than that, right?
Yeah. Okay, what do we do? What do we do? What do we do when it grows?
Yeah, well, so therein lies the question is like, if God breathes on something and it grows, what do you do? So one of the funny things about what you're saying right now is I went and heard Rick Warren at a young leaders thing in like 2013, 2014. And he goes in and he sits down and he goes, I'm not going to tell you guys how to grow a big ministry because that's easy. He said, you want to grow a big ministry? He says, I memorized every single person's name at my church until it got to about 2,000 people.
Wow.
Right, which was you said the name thing, but the funny thing is like that's actually the blueprint to get to a certain point, according to the guy, according to the seeker-friendly model. The guy of the purpose-driven church, right? And so he goes on this whole thing about lust of the eyes, lust of the flesh. I'm going to teach you guys how to finish well. I want you to finish well. So he goes his real talk, and so it's so interesting because I think the question isn't what side is this too big. I think the question is, hey, can we shepherd and love and disciple people, get them into communities? And that could happen. Our church has doubled in the last year, right? We went from,
whoa.
Yeah, crazy,
Be
right?
very careful. I mean, next thing you know, your pastor's a celeb.
Yeah, we went from 700 this time last
Unacceptable.
year.
Don't even finish.
To 1,500.
Not legit.
Yeah.
If it was legit, it would be shrinking. Because you're not preaching the real gospel. Because if you were, people would be running from that. Because that's the biblical precedent. When you talk about the good news is people hate you.
Yeah.
My bad. That's not real.
Yeah. So the question then becomes, I think the question is this: it's not big or small. It's how big can you grow the church while having people anchored and discipled and connected, right? Yeah. And that's the tricky part. And so like at our church, man, I was just having a conversation with a buddy of mine named Buzz, and he's like, man, there's all these guys showing up, but there's like 50 of us that are discipling everybody. Like we need more workers. We need more workers to step in.
I feel like Jesus spoke to that.
Yeah. The harvest is plentiful, but the workers are few.
Here's my question though, brother.
Yeah.
So when people say that, like, I'm in this small church and I'm in my community and we're being discipled, are you? Are you? Are you?
Yeah.
Because no one has joined your small little group. Nobody. So I would also push back there and go, well, isn't it a fundamental part of this thing that we believe, an open door for other people to see God's goodness through your life and want to be a part of that? So I don't think everything has to be big. I just really have a pushback issue with people who are pretending that small is holy.
Yeah.
Small is fantastic. If that is your calling, cool, but stop making it like we're right, they're wrong because they're big. Let's work on systems in the bigger church. I've been a part of that. It's very difficult to do, very hard. No one sets out, like we opened our doors to thousands of people. We grew by thousands, dozens of leaders to hundreds of leaders still behind the 8 ball. We did our best. There's room to grow when it comes to discipling people and building community.
What was the peak you guys were at when
I don't even know. I mean, it'd be over.
How many times were you preaching on a weekend?
I mean, it depends on the size of the venue. So early on, 7 services every 6 or 7.
Yeah.
Services a Sunday, and then we went to a bigger venue. So it was 4 plus 2 in Jersey, plus 1 in Boston.
You were in person everywhere?
No, I would go back and forth sometimes, or we would stream it. So it was different.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's very hard, man. It's just difficult to do. So that's the backside of revival people do not understand or talk about. Like most of the churches that you see, and I guess there might be some churches that are weird and they do this stuff mechanically and they're doing cheesy, corny things to like grow. I don't know that life. Our church grew because it was hand-to-hand combat. My life has changed. Yours can too. Let's go.
Yeah.
Like very easy. Yeah. And Jesus is still the most attractive, beautiful, dynamic message the world will ever have. I still believe that if you let the gospel do the talking, people will want to hear about it.
Yeah.
So I don't care if your church is small or large. I just don't think we need to get our identities wrapped up in the sizes of our churches.
Yeah,
we need some that are small. We need someone that are big for different reasons.
Yeah.
Why can't that be okay?
Yeah, no, I'm with you. I mean, you know how I feel about other mass dogmatic prescriptions for churches we talked about offline. We don't need to get into those now. So I'm with you. I don't think there is a one size fits all model for church. This is my position. I say this from the pulpit, and I say this for my YouTube channel. I say this when I'm preaching at Liberty University. I think revival isn't going to happen over screens. I don't think it's going to happen in arenas and stadiums.
Yeah.
I don't think it's going to happen at a big church. I think revival happens in our living rooms and in our small groups and doing life with people. And I think big churches can do that very well. And I think small churches, and I think house churches, and I think churches overseas and underground churches and churches in Pakistan can do that very well. And I think it's the day-to-day life. Ephesians, you know the verse, right? He called them to be apostles, preachers, pastors, to equip the people or the saints for the work of the ministry, right? So in any context, I think the folks who are leading the church are really just here to equip the people to do the work of the ministry.
I agree. And that happens on any size. And I think that's the beautiful challenge of all. Like me and Laura, for instance, if we were going to go to church on Sunday outside of TC, I want to be able to sit down. I want to hear a really clear message about Jesus. I don't care too much about the worship. We're coming from the best worship of all time. Inarguable. I'm kidding, of course. I love Hillsong worship. I love what we were able to create. I love what we were a part of. But I don't care about worship. I want the worship to be kind. I want it to be clear. I want the message. I don't care about anything else. But we're 47. There's different stages in your life where, like my daughter, though, they're not going to be attracted to the same place Laura and I are. They're just not. They're not. Like, I'd be happy at a church with pews, simple. I can deal with that. But we need it all. That's my point. And there's such an easier way to hold things that are different than the way some Christians currently are holding these things.
Yeah. No, I love it. It's totally unrelated. And I asked Judah this question about 10 years ago. I was at what are those conferences that they had that Andy Stanley and Judah. Anyway, we were hanging out one day, and I was at a conference, Catalyst. It was one of those Catalyst conferences out here in California.
Yeah.
And I had this question for him, and I have this for you. In hindsight, you were using everything at your disposal. You were using basketball, you know, whether that was you and Justin Bieber and you playing ball with Drake and all these things. But I asked you this. I said, hey, you have this Christian hip hop thing happening. And this is right as Lecrae is exploding,
Yeah.
and right as like this thing is really charging. And I asked, I say, hey, like, do you foresee some sort of partnership with the people that are making the art and the media in terms of the music, as well as the preachers that are reaching the people, and there being a cross-pollination happening?
Yeah.
Because for me, this is a value of mine. I don't know if you know this, but like one of the things that's fun to do is to put people onto other personalities. So like I love
that too.
going, hey, like I'm not a textual critic. If I'm going to talk about textual criticism of the scriptures, I'm going to point people to Wes Huff.
Yeah.
I'm going to point people to other creators. Sometimes they're way smaller than me. Sometimes they're way bigger than me. But what it does is it offloads the attention from me.
Yeah.
And because I'm not trying to build a cult of personality, because it really isn't about me, but I'm pointing to other creators. And I love when a creator comes on this channel, a YouTuber, and my checklist is like, preferably they're over 35, preferably in their 40s, preferably they have some expertise, preferably they've done some things. Because I'm with you in a lot of ways on the TikTok stuff. It's like, hey, we need more older people.
Yeah.
And I love when other people come up.
Same.
When you guys had that moment,
Yeah.
and I don't even know what you want to call it, because this is right after the Reform and Restless movement. This is right after Driscoll and that kind of faded. You guys have this beautiful moment and all these celebrities and all that. And I was like, hey, look, like there's other folks out here. Like Lecrae's doing dope stuff. KB is doing dope stuff. Do you foresee more cross-pollination and more cross, so that way it's being offloaded? And when I asked Judah this question, this is not a knock on Judah, he didn't understand the question. He's like, I don't understand what you're asking me. And I said, and I asked it again, and he was like, I've never even thought about that, you know? And I'm just like, man, there seemed to be a revival of sorts happening 12, 13 years ago through you guys and what Lecrae was doing. But it didn't seem to be a lot of cross-pollinating and like, hey, there's a unified front of all these people. And now I feel like that's happening. Like I feel like what Forrest is doing and what Corey's doing and Jonathan Paclude is doing and the churches that are sprouting up, Ed Newton, like there's like a movement of people that are all doing
Ed
media.
Newton, where's that at?
CBC Bible. Yeah, Pastor Ed Newton, CBC Bible. And then you'll see a Chandler Moore pop up and lead there. And it's like a unified movement between artists, rappers, speakers, YouTubers.
I mean, I feel like we did that every Hillsong conference.
Okay.
Like, but
was there rappers there? Was Lecrae there? Was
only Lecrae?
Only Lecrae. Okay.
So let me just say this, man. You know, I'm an old school hip hop head. So I personally had a disdain for Christian hip hop for a very long time.
Okay.
I just thought it was absolute trash.
Okay.
And Lecrae changed my mind about it. Now, bro, I think it's awesome. Like I hear some songs and I personally love Forrest Frank because I don't always want to hear and sing about doctrine, man. Sometimes I hear Christian hip hop guys, I'm like, man, I feel like I'm in a Reformed Bible class, dude. I'm not in the car for that, man. I'm trying to go to the gym and I want to actually feel like, I don't know why we struggle with that so much. Like, I don't understand why people think that's a bad thing to feel like. I saw one guy say like, I appreciate Forrest Frank, but we need more sorrow. We do, bud. We need more sorrow. There's a lot of sorrow and suffering in this. I'm like, okay, I think I heard his heart on it. I'm not making fun of him, but it just struck me. I'm like, he was like, I like Forrest Frank, but I'm like, oh gosh, we need more sorrow because there's a lot of suffering. I'm like, okay, because there's suffering and sorrow, we need more Forrest Frank.
Yeah.
That's a better way to hold that.
Yeah.
So anyway, all that to say.
And let me just say this real quick, not to cut you off. Even when Forrest Frank went through sorrow and suffering, and he delivered it, he was still criticized for it. So when he made Lemonade after he broke his back and when he went through the fire, it was like, he really is that guy all the time. And people still were critical of it.
But like that's why we keep pointing to these mythical people in the threads. As long as they don't dominate what people do, cool. I just feel like sometimes like I actually wanted to ask Corey why he switched his stance with Forrest, because I love Corey's humor. I think it's freaking hilarious. And I felt like it wasn't that big of a deal that he made fun of Forrest. I actually thought it was very funny. So it surprised me to see where it went. It's beautiful. I'll take peace over anything, but I just think we can definitely loosen up a little bit. Can definitely be some more life. But back to the Christian hip hop thing, back then there wasn't as much pollination because I don't think I personally was into the scene then. So I can only speak to myself, but we had other people come through all the time and collab. I bet you there's going to be more of it because it makes sense.
Yeah. And just to speak to the Corey thing, the way I paralleled it, and I think the way Corey saw it as well, like if we were all in a life group together and you, me, Corey, Forrest.
Talking about lust,
Yeah,
when?
yeah,
How
talking
quickly?
about this. And we're all in a life group together. And like Forrest really goes through that. Like Forrest really breaks his back. He really doesn't know if he's ever going to walk again. He really doesn't know if he. And Corey made a song as a joke. And then Forrest would have been like, man, that really hurt my feelings.
We would have had to
bro.
go to his house.
Yeah,
we would have had to.
We would have been
over.
like Corey, and Corey didn't apologize and didn't repent.
Okay.
You know, I think
I don't
that
know
would
what
have
I'm talking about there. So thank you for correcting.
Yeah,
me.
so I think it's one of those things where like in a human to human, it's just like my thumbnails. Like it's just like the thumbnails. Like
Gotcha.
it's like it works.
Yeah,
But like,
but it's probably a better way.
But
Okay.
if Carl was in your small group,
yeah, you would. Yeah, I got you.
I would be way more sensitive to that.
Okay,
You know
I
what I mean?
stand
And-
corrected.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and so
yeah.
I think that's
I don't think I understood the breadth of that situation.
no. I mean, Forrest was sobbing in those videos and legit didn't know if he was going to be able to walk and hold his
All I
kids
saw was
again.
Corey making a song about his.
Yeah, no, it was
Very funny. But
vasectomy.
now
Yeah,
I
yeah.
can see though if one of them. Yeah, interesting. Thank you for setting me straight there.
So when they reconciled, it was like, man, this is beautiful. But no, to your point, there were people that were still like, Corey, you're soft. You should have stood 10 toes down. And he's like, but nah, like as a follower of Jesus, like I got to be sensitive to my brother, even if he's being sensitive. Like even if I go, well, Carl, you took that, that was you in that photo. It's like, but no, I should still be sensitive to the fact that hurt you and change and repent.
Well, that's dangerously close to the calling of a Christian. Last thing we want to do is start to honor people who are doing the real work.
Yeah.
It's so much more fun to create reasons why you don't have to hold the line.
Yeah.
So it sounds to me like Corey, now that I know the full context, here I am doing exactly the thing I'm criticizing.
Now you're commentating.
Now I'm a commentator.
Carl Lentz commentary channel coming soon. Okay, we're gonna wrap up soon. I got just a couple more questions for
Why?
you.
Just getting cooked.
Well, we can
here,
keep
bro.
going and we can take a break
I
if
got
you
you.
want to take a break. But
You think I flew all the way to Carlsbad?
no, I have nowhere to be
For
at. I cleared my day.
I-
So I got to take you back and let you shoot around with my son.
Yes. Young
And
Levi.
I knew you were good at basketball, but I didn't know. Like you're like elite level good.
I think one time, let me give you the full crux. I was pretty good, high school, went to a prep school after because I wanted to get more looks, ended up on the number 1 team in the country, Hargrave Military Academy, 35-1, 12 guys went D1. My roommate got recruited by NC State. He didn't play the game. They came to sign him. I played great. They wanted me to come. I went to NC State. My first day of practice, I could not get the ball from under our basket to the free throw line going the other way
Why is that?
because I wasn't good enough.
Oh, okay.
The level had
There's
shifted.
levels to it.
So my coach, Sean Miller, who's now the coach at Texas, best assistant ever. I love him. Treated me like I was a 5-star recruit. Walked me and my mom around the campus with a torn Achilles like Sean Miller. I love him to this day. He said, Carl, I'll be honest with you. You have no hope of being a guard on this level. You can become the best shooter and maybe find your way to get some minutes down the road. And I went, done. And so I definitely became probably at some point a pretty close to elite shooter, but I tapped out pretty quick. And then as you get older, fundamentals become more important. So if you're a shooter when you're young and you still work on it, like now that I'm 47, like my mechanics are perfect. So I can still get better as a shooter. So I wouldn't say I was an elite basketball player. I would say I was very good at running a team, very good at leading a charge, and I would outdog everybody. But to this day, I can still shoot.
Yeah.
With these boots on right now, I'm going to go 8 for 10 from 40.
Yeah, you were nice. So I'm sure you know this, but like the history of basketball was that it was a missionary tool for folks that couldn't afford to play more complicated sports.
Really?
Yeah,
Jake
it's really
Naismith
interesting.
was a missionary?
Yeah, the guy who started it was connected to the muscular Christianity movement, which is where the YMCA came out of.
I never knew this.
And it was the idea was that you can use sports to help develop
Wow.
young men. And it has a beautiful history as a tool to reach young men for Jesus, like an actual tool. Yeah, and I'll put this over here in the edit. And so when we were driving here, you were telling me how you guys were using basketball
Yeah.
as a missionary tool.
Absolutely.
So it's like, tell me about
Well,
that.
I mean, in New York, basketball is a way of life. So that I lined up with quickly. And we just wanted to do what we do naturally, which is hoop. And that helped us get a foothold in a city where you cannot get a foothold. You know, the people that play ball in New York on this level culturally, they're just not interested in outside people at all. So you're not going to win these people to Jesus. What you can do is become part of the fabric, live your life alongside people, And if you're doing your job right as a believer, hopefully there's something in you that's contagious. And we just really used it to continue to take ground. And it became a way for our church to be known in the city so far from ministry. It was like, what's that church about? That's a church team? Oh, cool. Oh, they have a church. Next thing you know, it's history. So I think for anybody doing anything, what do you love? And have you seen that yet as a conduit for everything that God can do?
Yeah.
And so to us, it was just simple. It just happened to fit really well in New York.
Yeah, you guys had a team on the Rucker.
Well, we were the first team in the Rucker to start 5 NBA players. Shout out to Fat Joe, who got mad at me because I didn't tell him the hitters I was bringing. He said, Carl, you got to tell me when you're bringing hitters. And I mean, you
had NBA players.
5.
On
Hillsong Hustlers, and the game got shut down midway through because the crowd crushed. We had to go to the other side of the city, the Gaucho Gym, to finish the game, which we never did. We left during a timeout because it was so packed. I mean, it was like Jay Will at the 1, I think Landry Fields at the 2, KD at the 3, David Lee at the 4. We had like at least 4 or 5 other guys, Scott Machado, who's now playing in Brazil. Like it was awesome, but it was a church team. It made no sense.
And the coaches of their professional teams didn't have any issues with them participating?
They probably did, bro. But it's Rucker. What are you going to do? Like dudes are going to hoop at Rucker.
Yeah.
So it was just an incredible scene. One time, shout out to Hannibal, who's a famous MC. He would come to our church, so it would be packed, and we would come in and he'd say, I go to this is my church. Hillsong's my pastor. And he'd go, we got services at 10 o'clock, 12 o'clock, 3 o'clock. Yeah. He would do it for minutes on end. And I'd be like, Hannibal. But that was his church.
Yeah.
And stuff like that is just that's what revival looks like to me. It's organically people, they don't know all the politics. They don't know all the commentary. They just know they found a place that they could call home. Yeah. And through that, they have a relationship with God that's different. So that's how we use basketball. It was freaking awesome.
That's incredible, man.
Yeah.
That's incredible. So you didn't write your sermons on the court.
No.
But you did hoop a whole lot.
Yes.
And
a whole lot.
And then in that you told me, Justin Bieber got a crazy crossover.
He does.
Because he's a hockey player.
He does.
And so we were talking offline. I said, who's nicer, Justin or Drake? Because you hoop with Drake.
Yeah.
And you was like, Justin.
For sure.
Tell me why.
No, I mean, he's an athlete, bro. And we were with a bunch of guys who were known in the streets questioning whether he could play or not. And so there was a hoop outside and he did what you got to do on the street. We call it catching the body, where, I mean, both the guy's ankles are gone. He's fallen. His boys are clowning him. Justin can play.
Justin made somebody fall.
Absolutely. Yeah. This is Calabasas, California. I can call 5 people right now and verify.
Yeah.
So, because you don't see it coming. He's lanky. But Drake, I think he can play. But I think he was out of shape the time we did play. So, it was just a funny discourse. Like I was playing pretty hard early. He just said, "Babe, can you tone it down?" Because he was cool. It was really cool. Really nice guy. He can hoop too. There's just levels to it though.
Yeah. Did you feel like, specifically with a Drake, there was opportunities to share Jesus, faith, that sort of thing?
Yeah, for sure. I think there always is. The way I do that is typically just by trying to exist and see what God opens up. And I'm never looking for that angle. I can't stand that type of living. I don't think that's genuine. I don't think it's like the Christian who's waiting for the person to talk so they can get to their thing. I mean, the ability to listen and the ability to be present are 2 of the most under talked about evangelistic tools. Everyone loves the street preachers and the megaphones and cool, there's a place for it. But have you ever studied your listening? Have you ever studied your ability to be present without being the star of the conversation? Have you ever existed without giving your opinion? These are all effective evangelism tools, believe it or not. So for me, it was much more organic.
Yeah. I'm going through Greg Kokel's book, Street Smarts, right now. And he talks about, he's like, I haven't personally led someone to Christ in several decades. And then he goes on to explain what you just explained, where he goes, there's a lot that happens in pre-evangelism.
Bro.
And he said, everyone wants to be the harvester, but so many people are actually gardeners. And he said, if we could be better at gardening, asking good questions, listening, understanding worldview, he said, then the harvesters, they'll get the glory. Right. And the churches and the hands will go up and people maybe will personally lead somebody to Christ. But he said, we have way more people that are gardeners, but we're trying to force them into this, like, walk them through this question, ask them if they want to receive Jesus. And he said, that's not how evangelism works.
No. And we saw hundreds of thousands of people make decisions in New York every year. hundreds of thousands. Okay. And I always used to say, like, people would say, Carl, you're such a soul winner. And I'd say, oh, don't get this twisted. I didn't do any of this. I'm the last in line with the microphone and the light. The soul winners are the people who have done life with people long enough where they would trust them to come to a place that is so confronting as our church is, listen, and make a decision, a choice that'll change their life forever. So that's a great point. Like, if you're not concerned about what part of the team what role you're going to have in this salvation story, life's a lot more fun. I might be, I talked to Joel Osteen one time, and I asked him, I said, how do you handle some of the criticism? Because Joel is probably one of the nicest men I've ever met in my life. And I love him and I respect him. And he said, Carl, I feel like there's a world where I'm the handshake in the kingdom of God. There's other people that are going to be, this. There's other people going to be that. But me, I know why I'm here. And it was such a beautiful picture because I thank God for men like that. He knows what he's good at. He knows his gifting. There's other people there that sit at the table, drop the hammer, have the conversation, but nobody would ever come to that table with that person because they look terrible. They look mean, but they have something to say. You need the person at the door that has the gift to open it. It's called a body. It's supposed to work together. And we are in a world right now, brother, where people are judging other, like, that foot can't do what that hand can do. Hey, man, they're different parts of the body. Where is this thinking? Why don't people talk about it more? Like, why can't that person just have a different function than you? Is he less than you? Are you more than him? No. God intended this stuff to work together.
Yeah, I'm enjoying this. I've enjoyed getting to know you, man. And I think
man.
hopefully people come away with a robust version of you. I think, like I said to you earlier, I think there's value in sitting with people, having hard conversations.
Yeah.
There's not usually when it's kind of customary, say, hey, is there anything you don't want to talk about?
Sure.
And there's not been a single thing that you haven't wanted to talk about. You've been very open, very transparent.
Yeah.
And I appreciate that about you. I think there is a ton of value in just saying, hey, let's just have the conversations, or, hey, I don't understand this pocket of culture, or I understand all this.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of folks are like that. They don't quite understand how certain things work, and they don't understand. So I think it serves people well to say, hey, I'm going to just sit down and have the conversations directly.
Yeah.
And so there's beauty to that.
It's important. Somebody told me once, brother, when you're a man and you get to the place where, my friend Cody Jefferson, he said, nothing to hide, nothing to prove, nothing to protect. That's where you want to sit. That's where freedom is.
Yeah. Yeah. Cody's a cool guy.
He is, man.
We did an event, bro. We ended up at an event together in Arizona. The sweetest dude that brought us out. And he ends up putting us all in an Airbnb.
Yeah.
And there wasn't much organization, or like we didn't have a car, we didn't have anything. So we just like kind of fend for ourselves.
Yeah.
We fed ourselves.
Yeah.
Everyone just looked out. I was like, this person brought food in, this person brought food in. And Cody was a good dude.
He's a good dude, man.
He's a good dude. So before we wrap up, I'm trying to think if there's anything else. I think I've asked you everything I wanted to ask you. I think the only other thing, man, is like, what do you see the Lord doing now?
Yeah.
In terms of what's happening in culture now, in terms of, I don't know if you're keeping your eye on the Wes Huffs, if you're keeping your eye on what's happening on Joe Rogan, or someone like myself going on Sean Ryan, or obviously Forrest Frank doing arenas, Brandon doing stadiums. What do you think the Lord is doing right now? And what do you think we're going to be in the next several years?
I think there seems to be an urgency that I feel, and an opportunity that has never been here before. And I'm excited about it. I feel like that's why I do love this new guard of not church voices being elevated. And I think there's a reason for it. I think that outside of, I always tell people there's two worlds. There's the world in your phone and then the real world. So if you spend more time in your phone world and do the real world, you will miss this opportunity, because there are people, like the narrative that people are bad, like that times are tense, all this stuff that you hear from your phone. It's not true or false. I'm saying go out, see what's there for you. Talk to people. People are really open right now. And I see a beautiful revolution taking place, which is different than a revival. We've had revivals in this country. I think a revolution is something that shifts a template forever. That is what we are in line for. If we can play our cards right as the church, I think man, we had the best opportunity we've ever had right now. That's what I think.
Yeah. Yeah. And what role do you see media, content,
Crucial.
music
crucial.
playing into this?
All our brothers and sisters out there that are maybe in territory they didn't expect to be in, and you're sitting on what you're building right now, which is really, really significant. And it's there for people who want to use it correctly. God, you said earlier, you're glad God uses flawed people. I was going to say, do you mean just everyone?
Yeah.
And it's not about how flawed somebody is. It's about how faithful they're going to be to what God's put in front of them. Forget about how flawed you are. Think about how faithful God is. What might he do with somebody like you? We just need more people to continue to try, stand up. And that's the backside, bro, of the critical culture we live in. It makes people scared to step out because what if? And I like telling people, and I've dealt with that myself. Like even coming out into a new strain of life post Hillsong Church, there was a lot of what if people think this? And I had to reckon with that. And I don't think I'm alone in that. I think that we've even talked about stuff that you have to contemplate. Like we got to start naming the people that we're fearing and make sure they're worth our fear. And so that's my prayer for those that are in the media field. And I don't know if you consider yourself in the media field. I just pray that people will trust God and keep stepping out. Because you look at the people who have big voices right now, I don't know who they are, bro. I don't know what they've done. And apparently God's not interested in that either because they have the moment. So you might find yourself in a moment where you don't feel prepared for, you don't even feel qualified for. God's not interested. I'm not interested. What will you do with it? What do you want to do with the platform you have? And I think I see a lot of fire in the eyes of younger people right now, and I love it. I think people are like, I'm ready to take a swing at this.
Yeah. What do you think the biggest misconception of Carl Lentz has been over the last 5 years or over the last 2 years, or about a year and a half, 2 years since you've kind of came out into the public eye?
I don't know, brother. I cannot pinpoint it because I have done, I think, a really effective job of listening to voices that are going to make me better. So I don't know. You be better at telling me what the most common misconception is because I don't know it because I feel like I'm so detached from it other than the cheap shot, low hanging fruit stuff, which I don't give any weight to at all. Like wants to come back, wants to do this. Nothing like I don't, those low level criticisms, misconceptions, I do not know.
Yeah. No, that's good. You got any questions for me before we get out of here?
No, I hope you keep on pressing your pedal. I think the shift that you have made vocally about choosing to see the fruit, I hope everybody takes a page from that because it's easier to talk about what's wrong. It's harder to find what's good. And that's also the job of a Christian is to dig for God's goodness in it. And I hope more people follow your lead. And I think it's brave to do it. And I think that God's going to keep blessing it.
All right. Ladies and gentlemen, Carl Lentz, thank you so much for being here, brother. Hey, thank you so much for watching this video all the way to the end. If you liked it, then hit the like button. If you liked it a lot and have a thought to share, leave a comment. If you are listening to this on the podcast app, make sure to leave a review, and you could even leave a comment over there. And if you want to watch another video that is recommended just for you, hit this video over here. Let me know if they nailed it. Also, you can partner with us monthly, which helps us out a lot in our monthly community, get access to early drops and all that kind of good stuff over here. All right, I'll see you over there. Peace.